Phoenix Nights. Chapter 1132. The luxurious golden-robed handsome young man nodded slightly. He then stood before disappearing from the vicinity. Even though his techniques were formidable, Southern Cloud King controlled the arrays of the entire capital. He could still sense that this cheap teacher of his had left. Who would have thought that he would actually return? Southern Cloud King frowned. Truly unlucky. This was indeed the first time he met this teacher. That time, he was like a stray dog escaping. Due to an opportunity, he arrived at a historical remnant and obtained the top-graded secret treasure, the Twin Realm Blade. This was also what he relied on to turn the situation around. And in reality, the reason why this top-graded secret treasure, the Twin Realm Blade, was left in the historical remnant was deliberately left behind by this teacher of his. Those who wanted to obtain this secret treasure had to swear an oath and take him as their teacher. The binding of the oath. Reaching the level of Southern Cloud King, even if one violated the oath, there would not be any danger. It was merely going against his Tao heart, and it would be hard for him to improve further in his cultivation. But to Southern Cloud King, who had the ambition to reach the final realm of Cosmos God, he was not willing to violate the oath until the very last moment. That time, I only wanted to turn the situation around. Furthermore, I thought that he had fallen. Who would have thought that he didn't die and even returned? Southern Cloud King shook his head. That time, he was in such a miserable state. It was just taking an unparalleled existence who had disappeared for a very long time. He did not hesitate at all. And now, his teacher came. This was the first time they met. Firstly, Southern Cloud King did not wish to violate the oath. Secondly, he did not wish to anger this teacher of his. After all, when the other party was moving unhindered across the realm Heart Great Land, he had just become a cosmos god. He understood how frightening the other party was. If I really angered him, the entire Southern Cloud Nation, other than me, would die. Southern Cloud King sighed inwardly. The other party represented death in the past. And now, his strength might have improved, but Southern Cloud King would rather endure and not anger the other party. Feishua's city? Dongbush Shuang accompanied his father Ying Shan Lai Hu to drink for an entire night before returning to his courtyard. He sat cross-legged in a pavilion by the lake. Looking at the 5-phase beads that appeared on his wrist, he immediately sent an avatar into one of the beads. The inner world of the 5-phase beads. Dongbush Shuang appeared in midair and saw Demon Lord Yen Fire sitting cross-legged on the ground, trying his best to expel the voodoo toxin out of his body. After one night, the voodoo toxin in Demon Lord Yen Fire's body had been mostly expelled. However, Demon Lord Yen Fire didn't feel happy at all. Instead, his heart felt heavy. He knew that death was right in front of him. "You're here." Demon Monarch Yen Fire looked at Dongbush Shuang. Dongbush Shuang smiled. He only came to see Devil Monarch Yen Fire after a night had passed. He wanted Devil Monarch Yen Fire to calm down. "Fiend Monarch Yen Fire, you have two choices," said Dongbush Shuang. "First, I'll kill you and take your treasures. The second option is for you to take the initiative to offer up your treasures, and I'll send you to the Summer Wind Ancient Nation. Even though the Summer Wind Ancient Nation might punish you by making you work for them, you can at least keep your life." It was not difficult to kill Demon Monarch Yen Fire while he was imprisoned in the 5-phase beads. All that was needed was for both sides to kill each other. But the 5-phase beads isolated the flow of world energy. Without the replenishment of world energy, Devil Monarch Yen Fire would eventually exhaust all his energy and die. "Since I'm captured by you, I can only serve the Summer Wind Ancient Nation. What else can I do?" Devil Monarch Yen Fire growled. He had no other choice. To the 6 great ancient nations, these devils would be killed if they were weak. And most who became cosmos gods would have their value. Every ancient nation would have a group of thugs hidden in the dark. Weaker ancient nations like the Moonflower Ancient Nation and Towering Sky Ancient Nation would even take the initiative to recruit some great devils over. They did not set up any restrictions, and those great devils were relatively free. "Very good," Dongbush Shuang said. He then extended his hand, causing a strand of cosmos god energy to enter the body of Devil Monarch Yen Fire. Devil Monarch Yen Fire did not obstruct it. He easily checked through the body of Devil Monarch Yen Fire. All the secret treasures of Devil Monarch Yen Fire flew out. Devil Monarch Yen Fire did not obstruct them at all. Reaching this stage, he knew what he should do. By serving the Summer Wind Ancient Nation, there will be a day when I regain my freedom. Dongbua Shuang felt satisfied after checking through the body. Because if he were to be captured alive, the Summer Wind Ancient Nation would have another thug the moment they set up a restriction. Other than the contribution points, he would be rewarded with cosmos crystals. This Devil Monarch Yen Fire would most likely give him an additional 10 billion cosmos crystals. Even though the value of Devil Monarch Yen Fire was low, it was still an additional benefit. To the Summer Wind Ancient Nation, sending some honored guests to carry out missions would require them to pay contribution points. Some of the more powerful honored guests would even grumble and directly reject the mission. But these thugs were different. They did not need to be rewarded. They did not dare to disobey orders. I've been free until now, yet I've fallen in the hands of this monarch Feishue. Devil Monarch Yen Fire sat cross-legged. Even though he felt sorrowful, he knew what he should do. Dongbua Shuang did not hunt anyone else within the Feishue city. Because he was clear that it was a great fortune for him to capture Devil Monarch Yen Fire alive. According to experience, every time the Realm Heart God Palace opened, it was not bad for the Summer Wind Ancient Nation to kill one of the mission targets. Because those who could be listed in the bounty missions were hard to kill. If not for him, Dongbua Shuang, being cunning enough to reach the pinnacle of voidification stealthily, if not for 9 Venom Religion Master helping him, if not for Western Floating Old Ancestor being slower by a step, he would not have succeeded. Hence, he knew that he was lucky. Furthermore, of all the targets, only Devil Monarch Wind Moon was countered by him. But Devil Monarch Wind Moon knew that he had a weakness in his heart temperament. Hence, he chose to hide in the treasure that Western Floating Old Ancestor brought with him. Hence, after some searching, he discovered that the location of Devil Monarch Wind Moon was where Western Floating Old Ancestor was. That was how Western Floating Old Ancestor could disguise as Devil Monarch Wind Moon. Naturally, the other Devil Monarchs did not dare to hide in the treasure that Western Floating Old Ancestor brought with him. Because Western Floating Old Ancestor wasn't that strong. It was just that after his body was destroyed, he could rapidly form another body. If the 4 great Devil Monarchs hid together, Great Paragon Fui and other horrifying existences would most likely work together to wipe them out. It is considered amazing to kill 1 or 2 targets in the quota contest for the Summer Wind Ancient Nation. Most of the time, it is still the strange treasure missions that accumulate contribution points. Dongbua Shuang thought. The strange treasure missions are what the Summer Wind Ancient Nation requires, yet they are rare and lacking. Dongbua Shuang thought. Even the 3 great clans in the Summer Wind Ancient Nation wanted them. One could see how rare they were. No matter how valuable they were, these strange treasures all had a common point: they were rare. Those participating in the competition were all relatively strong. They were all doing their best to search for them. According to history, most would require around 10,000 contribution points to obtain a quota. In history, there were times when the quota was slightly higher. For instance, it would require 10,000 to 20,000 contribution points to obtain a quota. Sometimes, it would be slightly lower. Just 5,000 contribution points would allow one to obtain a quota. And this little contribution points would allow one to obtain a quota. One could understand the difficulty of the assassination and strange treasure missions. Dongbua Shuang, who was seated cross-legged in the pavilion, smelled the fragrance of the warm fruit wine. Suddenly, he felt something and looked over. Hua! A figure condensed on the lake in front of him. It was a yellow-robed male with a protruding forehead. Dongbua Shuang was startled. He immediately stood up. Greetings, Great Paragon. The person who came was one of the 9 great paragons from the Summer Clan, Great Paragon Iron Wind. His strength was slightly lower, comparable to Broken Sky Paragon Master from the Western Floating Nation. Actually, the majority of Paragon Masters only had this strength. But no matter what, the other party was a core member of the Summer Clan. Monarch Feishue. Great Paragon Ironwind stepped on the void with a grin. He walked into the pavilion and sniffed. This wine is truly fragrant. I wonder if I can have a few cups with you. It is Feishue's honor for Great Paragon to come and drink with you. Donbush Shuang immediately said. Great Paragon Ironwind immediately sat down. Only then did Donbush Shuang sit down. No other choice. Even if their strength was comparable, those from other nations would still be weaker by a level when facing a great paragon from the Summer Wind Ancient Nation. After all, the other party had a bunch of helpers. Furthermore, he was weaker than the other party. Amen, this wine is quite tasty. Great Paragon Ironwind placed down his wine cup. He beamed. I've heard that Monarch Feishue has captured that devil Monarch Yen Fire alive. Truly admirable. It is merely luck. Donbush Shuang answered. This isn't luck. Without the voidification technique of a monarch, how could one get close to him? Devil Monarch Yen Fire and 9 Venom Religion Master did not know about it. Without the Mirage and Illusory Realm technique, how could one easily imprison him? Great Paragon Ironwind said. Donbush Shuang revealed a grin. You're overpraising me. Even though he said so, he was still relatively happy in his heart. Haha, that devil Monarch Yen Fire did not seek his own death, right? Great Paragon Ironwind said. No. Donbush Shuang answered. He will continue working for the Summer Wind Ancient Nation. Great Paragon Ironwind nodded softly, saying, I have a matter that I need Monarch Feishue's help with. Donbush Shuang felt his heart pounding. Unless... Great Paragon, please tell me. I'll definitely help as long as I can. Donbush Shuang immediately answered. Great Paragon Ironwind nodded. Monarch Feishue is still young. Furthermore, he has just become a cosmos god not too long ago and has yet to reach a bottleneck. There is no rush for him to break through. That is why I came here. I have a good friend in the Summer Clan who has reached a bottleneck in his cultivation. Hence, he wishes to enter the Realm Heart God Palace. Hence, I hope for Monarch Feishue to part with his treasure and hand over this imprisoned devil Monarch Yen Fire to me. Rest assured, I will definitely not mistreat Monarch Feishue. I'll fork out 30 billion cosmos crystals as compensation. Donbush Shuiying's expression changed slightly. Compensation? Once the 90,000 years deadline was up, he would be able to hand over 12,000 contribution points. And a total of 10 billion cosmos crystals. Just these alone would be worth no less than 30 billion cosmos crystals. Because contribution points could be exchanged for cosmos crystals, but cosmos crystals could not be exchanged for contribution points. Furthermore, it was possible for him to obtain a slot to enter the Realm Heart God Palace with his contribution points. Great Paragon, I've reached a bottleneck in my cultivation too. I need to enter the Realm Heart God Palace too. Donbush Shuang said. He was not lying. Just after becoming a Cosmos God, he had broken through to the Cosmos God realm in all 9 branches of the Tao of Void. Because his accumulations were too deep, he had reached a bottleneck after fusing the Sky Phase and Earth Phase over 10 billion years. He would be stepping into the Level 2 Cosmos God realm soon. Monarch Feishue, if you agree, I'll owe you a favor too. Great Paragon Ironwind said. Donbush Shuang felt slightly frustrated in his heart. Favor? If it was a favor from Great Paragon Fui, it would be worth a lot. As for Great Paragon Ironwind, there was a limit to how strong he was. How useful could a favor be? Why? You aren't willing? Great Paragon Ironwind frowned. You think it is too little? Even though that good friend of mine said 30 billion cosmos crystals, I can increase it to 50 billion cosmos crystals. That should be enough to compensate for your loss. Monarch Feishue, you are still young, so why are you so anxious? There will be plenty of opportunities in the future. Star. Chapter 1133. There would be plenty of chances in the future? Wouldn't he still have to fight for it the next time? Furthermore, his hometown origin world was constantly expanding. If he did not cultivate to the final realm of Cosmos God before his hometown was destroyed, he would not be able to save his loved ones and friends. He did not have time to waste. Great Paragon Iron Wind! Dongwu Shui Ying's eyes turned sharp. He stared at Great Paragon Iron Wind in front of him. I must get the chance to enter the Realm Heart God Palace this time. Please forgive me for not being able to help you. You! Great Paragon Iron Wind's expression changed. There's no way to be humble on the path of cultivation, Dongwu Shui calmly replied. His voice was filled with resolution. I have already given you a lot of face. I have no intention of becoming enemies with you. If you really want to tear apart all pretense of cordiality, you can use any move you want. I am not afraid. Reaching the level of Dongwu Shui, he was qualified to challenge others. There's no way to be humble? All right. Great Paragon Iron Wind immediately stood up. He no longer spoke. With a step, he disappeared from the place. Dongwu Shui stood up. He watched silently. Summer Wind Capital. Within a luxurious residence, Great Paragon Iron Wind descended from the sky. Brother Iron Wind, how is it? A green-robed male came over to welcome him. Seeing the expression of Great Paragon Iron Wind, he felt a knot in his heart. Younger brother Thousand Yang, that Yingshan Snow Eagle mentioned something about there's no way to be humble on the path of cultivation. He is unwilling to agree no matter what. Great Paragon Iron Wind softly shook his head. As a brother, I have no choice. The green-robed male added. I am already grateful that Brother Iron Wind is willing to stand out for me. Furthermore, I am only harboring a strand of hope. If that Yingshan Snow Eagle isn't too eager to enter, I can naturally make a trade with him, but since he isn't willing to hand it over, so be it. I'll think of other ways. How is the progress of accumulating contribution points? Great Paragon Iron Wind asked. I've thought of all ways and adding in the face of some old friends before I managed to accumulate 8,000 contribution points. The green-robed male softly shook his head. If I don't suppress that Yingshan Snow Eagle, it would be impossible for me to enter the top 4. Great Paragon Iron Wind frowned too. This strange treasure mission is too difficult. He also wholeheartedly wanted his good friend to win a spot. His good friend, Monarch Thousand Yang, was an elite amongst the younger generation Cosmos gods of the Summer Clan. He was also the personal disciple of Emperor Summer. He was highly regarded by several great sovereigns. Nevertheless, the Summer Clan was the head of the 3 great clans. There were many experts within, and the clan only had 2 quotas. One was reserved for the great paragons, and the other was fought over by other Cosmos gods. Although Emperor Thousand Yang was quite a dazzling figure, there were simply too many competitors for him. He wasn't able to win a spot within the clan, and so he had no choice but to fight for one of the 4 spots in the open competition. One must know that even Great Paragon Fui was participating in the competition in the outside world. There was no other way. There were too many experts in the Xia clan. There were even some unspoken rules for the factions to take turns. 8,000 mission credits aren't enough. Grand Monarch Ironwind thought hard. I'm preparing to make a trip to the primogenitor ancient country to see if I can get some more mission credits, said the green-robed Emperor Lord Thousand Yang. Inside a wooden house, a wide-robed male sat cross-legged on a praying mat. He was none other than Great Paragon Fui. At this moment, he was looking at the person in front of him with a smile. Not far away from him, there was a bald old man seated cross-legged too. This bald old man was wearing a black robe with some crimson patterns on it. He was emitting a bloody and wicked aura. Fui, this is the golden indigo serpent fruit that you wanted. The bald old man extended his hand. A sparkling and translucent box appeared in his palm. The box automatically opened, revealing a unique fruit within. The skin of the fruit was translucent and crystalline. Within it, there were gold and blue lights revolving and chasing each other. The trajectory they chased after each other contained the aura of a supreme law. The golden indigo serpent fruit was ranked at the top of the special treasure missions. It could only be produced in the Broken Teeth mountain range, and it could be exchanged for 30,000 mission credits. If one wanted to sell it, it was not hard to earn 80 billion cosmos crystals. It's just that most people would not sell it. Even across the entire realm Heart Great Land, there would be one less of such rare treasures after using one. Where is the item that I need? The bald old man stared at Great Paragon Fui. This golden indigo serpent fruit has truly landed in your hands. Namosa, you are truly cunning. Great Paragon Fui chuckled. The item, the bald old man coldly said. Great Paragon Fui waved his hand, causing many golden halos to appear. A total of 18 golden halos appeared. The eyes of the bald old man were blazing with passion. He wanted to snatch it over immediately, yet he did not dare to do so. This is yours. Great Paragon Fui waved his hand, causing those golden halos to fly to the side of the bald old man. Only then did the bald old man snatch it. Looking at these golden halos, his eyes turned slightly red. I finally got it. Once, he was just a step away from obtaining this treasure. It's a pity that Great Paragon Fui was incredibly domineering in the past. He killed his way through and got all the treasures. Great Paragon Fui waved his hand and obtained the golden indigo serpent fruit. You are really willing to part with it? The bald old man looked at Great Paragon Fui. With your identity, your summer clan would definitely give you a slot internally, right? And you even came out to fight for it? And you are even willing to give the golden indigo serpent fruit to the clan? Competing with the juniors? Great Paragon Fui chuckled. Alright, Namosa, you can leave now. Alright. The bald old man immediately stood up and left the wooden house. There was a young man outside the wooden house who specially led him away. Great Paragon Fui continued closing his eyes. A dimmed light bead floated above his head as he continued meditating. Naturally, his mentality would be different since his strength was different. In the eyes of Great Paragon Fui, only unparalleled existences could make him feel threatened. He did not even care about those final realm cosmos gods who did not acquire any supreme-graded secret treasures. Hence, he was not willing to lower his status to compete with the cosmos gods within the Summer Clan. Great Paragon, previously, we have collected more than 10,000 contribution points, yet we still want to collect this golden indigo serpent fruit? This special treasure is a loss for us. Even if we offer it up, the clan will only give us very little contribution points. The young man outside the house said. This young man was a unique puppet life form and was naturally loyal to Great Paragon Fui. He was also the strongest subordinate under Great Paragon Fui, and was obtained by chance over the years. Even if we don't want the contribution points, it is a small matter to gift it to the clan. Great Paragon Fui chuckled. It is ultimately our clan. Time passed. Other than a few who could remain calm during the public contest for slots in the Summer Wind Ancient Nation, the others were doing their best. Even Fire Devil Paragon Master did not slack off. In the blink of an eye, it had been 80,000 years since the contest for slots began. And at this moment, a piece of news spread. Black Devil Great Lake, the number one great devil beneath the three great religious masters, Devil Monarch Yuan, died in the hands of Fire Devil Paragon Master. Devil Monarch Yuan was incredibly powerful. He was also the eldest personal disciple of Yama religious master from the Black Devil Great Lake, and he was extremely fond of him. Devil Monarch Yuan addressed himself as Yuan. His name was similar to that mysterious and transcendental existence in the entire realm Heart Great Land Yuan. One could see his ambition. As for his assassination mission, the reward was a total of 20,000 contribution points. It far exceeded that of the one that Dongwu Shuang captured alive. Amazing! Dongwu Shuang read through the intelligence transmitted from within the Southern Cloud's sacred religion. It was a detailed report regarding the death of Devil Monarch Yuan. What a good Fire Devil Paragon Master! What a pitiful Devil Monarch Yuan! He has truly underestimated Fire Devil Paragon Master. The intelligence report described. Devil Monarch Yuan did not fear Fire Devil Paragon Master. He even treated this as a form of tempering himself. Devil Monarch Yuan was qualified to be so confident. He was indeed qualified to fight and kill many Paragon Masters. But the strength of Fire Devil Paragon Master was much more frightening than what the outside world knew. Suddenly, Devil Monarch Yuan-Yi was heavily injured by Fire Devil Paragon Master before being swallowed whole. After being swallowed, Devil Monarch Yuan-Yi could no longer escape. Furthermore, he died very soon. Yama Religious Master was furious. He was the eldest disciple that Yama Religious Master favored the most. Hence, a horrifying battle ensued. Yama Religious Master fought against Fire Devil Paragon Master. Even the two religious masters from the Black Devil Great Lake were helping. They fought until the world turned dark. Relying on the unique environment of the Black Devil Great Lake, Fire Devil Paragon Master could not escape for a moment. He was still fighting against the three great religious masters. Fire Devil Paragon Master isn't willing to ask for help. He only asked for help. If one or two more Paragon Masters from the Summer Wind Ancient Nation were to help, they could easily save him. Dongbush Shuang understood this point too. This way, Fire Devil Paragon Master would have at least 20,000 contribution points. He was in danger during the contest for the quotas. Chapter 1134. Dongbush Shuang pondered. Even though there were 4 quotas this time, Great Paragon Fui would definitely get one. In reality, it was mainly the competition for the 3 quotas. Fire Devil Paragon Master and 9 Venom Religion Master were both not easy to deal with. There were also several Cosmos gods from the 3 great clans. Their network and intelligence far surpassed Shui Ying's. Intelligence. Dongbush Shuang muttered to himself. Intelligence was very important. The special treasures on the list of special treasures were too rare. First, he had to know where to find them. Fortunately, he had his teacher, Southern Cloud King, behind him. Otherwise, he would be blinded. But the intelligence network of his teacher was far from comparable to the 3 great clans of the Summer Wind Ancient Nation. The asking price of the Fan clan is too black. Dongbush Shuang shook his head inwardly. The shops of the Fan clan could sell intelligence too. But the detailed information regarding the special treasures involved in the competition for the quotas was priced at 10 billion cosmos crystals. That was too black. This price was close to that of the Scarlet Cloud God's spear. It is too difficult to obtain these special treasures. Fortunately, I have the 9 rotation undying technique. Dongbush Shui Ying's eyes were filled with expectation. 9 rotation undying technique. He had only sold it to the 3 great clans of the Summer Wind Ancient Nation. He had not sold it to other ancient nations. That was to be used only during crucial moments. South. Suddenly, 2 avatars appeared above the Feishu's city. Following that, they both executed the destructive realm teleportation technique and left. One of the avatars arrived at the Towering Sky Ancient Nation. Towering Sky Ancient Nation. Shuang arrived at the capital of the Towering Sky Ancient Nation. Even from outside the city, he could see a huge tree emitting golden light in the boundless capital. The tree was so tall that it pierced through the cloud layer, and its treetop was even more vast. Dongbush Shuang knew that this enormous ancient tree was the true body of Towering Sky King, the Towering Sky God Tree. Who? He entered through the city gates. Stepping on the void within the city, he soon arrived outside the royal palace. The royal palace did not have any walls. Instead, there was an enormous river that looked like a belt. In other words, this river was the palace wall. Dongbush Shuang stood outside the palace and looked at the magnificent skyscraping godly tree. He immediately bowed respectfully and transmitted his voice. Feishu greets the ruler of the skyscraping monarch kingdom. Ha! On the towering sky god tree, an unseen ripple enveloped Dongbush Shuang. Monarch Feishu from the southern cloud nation, it is rare for you to visit my towering sky ancient nation. Come in for a chat. As an invincible existence, he was very humble. Speaking of which, there were only 2 unparalleled existences in the entire realm Heart Great Land who had a good temper. One was Limitless City Master, and the other was Towering Sky King. Hua! Dongwu Shuang felt as though he had been teleported. His vision blurred and he found himself within a luxurious palace. Above the palace, there was a simple and unadorned old man wearing a golden robe. He was none other than the body of Towering Sky King which he used to travel outside. There were also two subordinates by his side. What matter is Monarch Fei Xue here for? Towering Sky King looked down at Dongwu Shuang with a smile. I have a Tao of Void secret technique that could allow one to reach the pinnacle of voidification at the primal chaos realm, Dongwu Shuang said. I wonder if King is interested? Is it the 9 rotation undying technique that you sold to the Summer Wind Ancient Nation? Towering Sky King asked. Yes. Dongwu Shuang nodded. At the same time, he was slightly startled. Towering Sky King even knew about this. Towering Sky King was relatively interested and agreed to buy it for 50,000 contribution points. Even though the Summer Wind Ancient Nation offered 150,000 contribution points, the two great ancient nations were ultimately different in strength, and the number of experts they had was different too. It was not bad for them to offer 50,000 contribution points. Naturally, this 50,000 contribution points could only be exchanged for treasures within the Towering Sky Ancient Nation. Very soon, another expert from the Towering Sky Ancient Nation appeared in the Great Palace, Paragon Master Yashi. Paragon Master Yashi. Dongwu Shuang bowed. In front of him was a female Paragon Master. I wish to buy the special treasure Future Golden Pupil. I wonder how many contribution points I need from the Towering Sky Ancient Nation? 50,000 contribution points. Paragon Master Yashi beamed. This is too expensive already. Dongwu Ying's expression changed. The future golden pupil could be exchanged for 15,000 contribution points in special treasure missions. Even though the uniqueness of the quota to enter the Realm Heart God Palace resulted in the low contribution points, the true value of the future golden pupil was only between 20,000 to 30,000 contribution points from the Towering Sky Royal Clan. Now, it required 50,000 contribution points. That was double the price. There are quite a few experts from the Summer Wind Ancient Nation who want this future golden pupil. Paragon Master Yashi wasn't anxious at all. Oh, then there's no other way. Dongwu Shuang answered. He wasn't a fool. Even though the quota was important. But its value was limited in the Realm Heart Great Land. To the absolute majority of experts, the Realm Heart God Palace would only open occasionally over the years. Most of them entered for the sake of breaking through, and some for the sake of top-graded secret treasures. But in reality, even if they entered, the chances of obtaining one were relatively low. Hence, the value of the quota should be much lower than that of a top-graded secret treasure. 50,000 contribution points from the Towering Sky Royal Clan? Not worth it. Naturally, the reason why he was so calm was because he had sold the 9 rotation undying technique in the Icy Snow Ancient Nation. The Icy Snow Ancient Nation had 3 unparalleled existences, and their foundation was much stronger than the Towering Sky Ancient Nation. Hence, Shuang paid a total of 90,000 contribution points to the Icy Snow Ancient Nation. He merely spent 30,000 contribution points to exchange for a special treasure he needed, the Blood Drop Ice Crystal Pillar. In the special treasure mission, it was worth 16,000 contribution points. Looking from this angle, the price given by the Icy Snow Ancient Nation was reasonable. It should be sufficient. The mission of Devil Monarch Yen Fire gave me 12,000 contribution points, and the Blood Drop Ice Crystal Pillar should be worth 16,000 contribution points too. Altogether, I have a total of 28,000 contribution points. Dongwu Shuang thought. One had to know. The majority of Paragon Masters weren't that wealthy. Southern Cloud King was absolutely one of the wealthiest existences in the entire Realm Heart Great Land. Even for the quota to enter the Realm Heart God Palace, unless Paragon Masters disregarded everything to enter, the price they had to pay would be limited. What about 28,000 contribution points? Dongwu Shuang thought, most of the contribution points given for this mission are very low. I've lost at least 20 billion cosmos crystals by offering them up. Fortunately, he had created the 9-rotation undying technique. Otherwise, how could he be so satisfied? That Paragon Master Yashi subsequently reduced the price. The closer it was to the 90,000-year limit, the lower the price. It's a pity that Dongbua Shuang still found it too expensive. Secondly, he felt that he should have enough. He had exchanged for some other items in the Icy Snow Ancient Nation and Towering Sky Ancient Nation. He even went to look for some experts to exchange for some low-priced special treasures. Hence, he gathered a total of 30,000 contribution points. 30,000 contribution points. I don't believe I can't get a quota. Dongbua Shuang was determined to get it. That was why he paid such a huge price. Xiao. On the final day of the contest for the quotas, Cosmos gods who participated in the contest rushed over from various places to the royal palace of the Summer Wind capital. Even some Cosmos gods who did not participate in the contest rushed over. Naturally, those who could enter the royal palace were usually from the 3 great clans. Southern Cloud Nation, Yingshan Snow Eagle. It's him. He should have accumulated quite a lot of contribution points. Quite a few Cosmos gods noticed that white-robed young man who entered the royal palace. Dongbua Shuang was led by an attendant directly to a side hall. Within the side hall, there was that yellow-robed old man who was the erased spirit of the royal palace. Elder Xia. Dongbua Shuang said. I've heard that only you and Fire Devil Paragon Master have succeeded in the assassination mission this time. Elder Xia chuckled. I was lucky too. Dongbua Shuang said. He then passed the wristband to Elder Xia. There are some treasures within this Eden treasure, as well as Devil Monarch Yen Fire who has been sealed by me. Devil Monarch Yen Fire did not resist at all. That was why Dongbua Shuang sealed his strength. Elder Xia nodded and received the wristband. He rapidly checked through it, and could not help but look at Dongbua Shuang with shock. Devil Monarch Yen Fire was captured alive. In a while, an attendant will give you another 10 billion cosmos crystals. Including the special treasures, 30,000 contribution points. That is quite high. But whether or not you can get a quota will have to wait until the deadline. By then, the top 4 will get a quota. I know. Dongbua Shuang felt slightly nervous in his heart. He hoped that nothing unexpected would happen. According to his experience, 30,000 contribution points should be sufficient. Chapter 1135. Night descended. Within a side palace hall in Summer Wind capital. Candles were lit, illuminating the entire palace hall. The group of Cosmos gods were seated. Delicious wine and delicacies were placed on the table in front of them. There were female attendants serving them by the side. Even though they were chatting happily, the group of Cosmos gods was still looking forward to the selection of slots. This time, only Monarch Feishua and Fire Devil Paragon Master have completed the assassination mission. In my opinion, Monarch Feishua will definitely get one of the 4 slots. Thank you for your auspicious words, Dongbua Shuang said as he held onto his wine cup. There were more than 60 Cosmos gods seated within the palace hall. They were all here for a cup of wine and to join in the fun. After all, the selection of slots to enter the Realm Heart God Palace was an amazing event. Those who came from outside the nation like Western Floating Old Ancestor were not qualified to enter. Only when the inner city of the Realm Heart God Palace opened would he be able to try his luck during the chaotic battle. Hua! Amidst the round of toasting, a figure suddenly appeared at the center of the palace hall. It was that yellow-robed old man. Elder Summer. The group of Cosmos gods became alert. They immediately greeted politely. I'm here. Dongbua Shuang felt his heart tightening. 30,000 contribution points. Even in history, I will definitely enter. No other choice. Even if other Cosmos gods were determined to enter, they would only enter after reaching a bottleneck. Even if they failed, it would not affect them too much the next time they entered. But it was different for Dongbua Shuang. The next time he entered? Perhaps the next time the Realm Heart God Palace opened, his hometown origin world would have entered the next era. It has begun. Emperor Thousand Yang was also sitting there, watching silently. His eyes were filled with passion. I've prepared a total of 18,000 merit points, which is far more than the merit points for Yingshan Snow Eagle's assassination mission. With so many merit points, it should be enough for me to enter. This time, I have to enter. Amen. Fire Devil Paragon Master revealed a grin. He was filled with confidence. Great Paragon Fui sat there smiling. He was calm and indifferent. Under the attention of all cosmos gods, the yellow-robed old man Elder Summer grinned. The time is up. It is too late to offer any treasures. At this moment, the ranking of contribution points has been determined. This time, the first is Great Paragon Fui with 50,000 contribution points. 50,000? So many? With Great Paragon Fui's identity, he should be able to get a position in the Summer Clan with just a word. Why did he spend 50,000 contribution points? Everyone present was speechless. One had to know that because it was a competition for the slots, the mission merits were on the lower side. Offering it up would be a huge loss. If it could be exchanged for 50,000 contribution points, it would be a loss of at least 50 billion universe crystals. This was something that even a supremacy would feel distressed over. Even the Scarlet Cloud Divine Spear and 5 phase beads in Dongbu Shui Ying's hands were not worth that much. Impressive. Dongbu Shui Ying's heart sank. He had undeniably obtained a slot. Humph! The corner of Fire Devil Paragon Master's eyes twitched when he heard that. He originally thought that his contribution points should be close to Great Paragon Fui's, yet the gap was so huge. This time, the second ranked. The yellow-robed old man's voice reverberated across the palace hall. Is Monarch Feishua with 30,000 contribution points? Shua! At the same time, many cosmos gods turned to the white-robed young man seated there. All of them were startled. This Monarch Feishua who came from the Southern Cloud Nation was too ruthless. 30,000 contribution points? He is a new cosmos god, yet he is willing to offer up so many unique treasures. He only earned 12,000 contribution points from capturing Devil Monarch Yen Fire, and other than that, he actually prepared a total of 18,000 contribution points. That's crazy. Usually, 10,000 contribution points would be enough to get a slot. He is really willing. Southern Cloud King is supporting him from behind? He is indeed the wealthiest Paragon Master. Even if Southern Cloud King is rich, he shouldn't be supporting his own disciples so extravagantly, right? 30,000 contribution points? There was an uproar in the side palace hall. Everyone was discussing this matter through voice transmissions. The status of Great Paragon Fui was too high. He was vaguely approaching unparalleled existences. Hence, everyone could understand how much he contributed. Monarch Feishua, Yingshan Snow Eagle, was not even a Paragon Master. Yet he contributed so many contribution points. That was too frightening. This time, the third ranked is Fire Devil Paragon Master. The yellow-robed old man continued. 26,000 contribution points. Fire Devil Paragon Master indifferently chuckled. Clearly, he did not feel too joyful. Great Paragon Fui contributed nearly twice as much as him. Even a junior was able to suppress him. Fire Devil Paragon Master, who cared a lot about his reputation, naturally felt uncomfortable. Actually, getting a slot was considered a success. It's just that Great Paragon Fire Devil cared too much about his reputation. He was so prideful that he was not willing to join the 3 great clans. He ruled over a superpower by himself. The fourth ranked. The yellow-robed old man continued. The palace hall became silent. Quite a few cosmos gods participating in the competition felt nervous. There was only one slot left. It's me. It must be me. I've prepared 18,000 contribution points, and it's impossible for me not to get into the top 4. Monarch Thousand Yang's eyes were filled with blazing expectations. It's Mount Spring Island Master with 20,000 contribution points. The yellow-robed old man, Old Summer, announced the final slot with a grin. Great Paragon Fui, Monarch Feishua, Fire Devil Paragon Master, Mount Spring Island Master, congratulations to the 4 of you. Currently, the Realm Heart God Palace is gradually opening. Once it fully opens, Emperor Summer will naturally bring everyone into the Realm Heart God Palace. Saying that, old Summer dissipated and left. Haha, Brother Feishue, congratulations for spending so much effort to enter the Realm Heart God Palace. Truly admirable. Brother Feishue, you have truly made us envious. I have yet to enter the Realm Heart God Palace even after cultivating for so long. The palace hall was filled with sounds of congratulations. Some congratulated Dongwu Shuang, Fire Devil Paragon Master, and Mount Spring Island Master. There were also a few who went to congratulate Great Paragon Fui. Even though the temper of Great Paragon Fui was relatively good, he would usually give off the feeling of strangers don't get close to him. Only Paragon Masters and a few who were close to him would take the initiative to congratulate him. At that moment, some cosmos gods stood up and left. The purpose of this gathering was to wait for the quota. The moment the quota was announced, they could leave. Great Paragon Fui also stood up and left. Fire Devil Paragon Master casually said a few words before leaving too. Interesting. Nine Venom Religion Master chuckled. In reality, he did not earn any contribution points in this mission. He participated in the competition. Only a few would risk their lives to enter. The majority were just observing the situation. If they felt that the chances of entering were high, they would work hard to accumulate contribution points. If they felt that the chances were low, they would not be willing to fork out any contribution points. Just like usual. For instance, there were 4 quotas. None of them completed the assassination mission, and none of them were like Great Paragon Fui who was determined to get a quota. Under normal circumstances, everyone would not fight too hard, and 10,000 contribution points would suffice. Furthermore, if one was lucky, he could get a quota with 6,000 to 7,000 contribution points. But this time? It was said that there were 4 quotas because Great Paragon Fui was equivalent to 3. And because Dongwu Shuang and Great Paragon Fire Devil had completed the assassination mission, it had raised the threshold of competing for the quotas. The majority of those who participated in the competition just to try their luck would immediately give up after seeing this. Because they understood that the competition for the quotas this time was clearly difficult. Even if they got a quota, they would have to pay a huge price, and it was not worth it. They had a long lifespan. At most, they would wait for the next time. And the reality was as such. The 4th-ranked candidate had earned a total of 20,000 contribution points. That was madness. I actually didn't enter. Just a little bit more, just a little bit more. Monarch Thousand Yang's expression was slightly ugly. He had left early too. Dongwu Shuang was in a good mood. But he could feel that the group of cosmos gods from the Summer Wind Ancient Nation were vaguely unhappy that an outsider had snatched a quota. Other than a few who were familiar with him, the majority of them rejected him. To this, Dongwu Shuang did not care. It was normal for him to reject him. After all, the Summer Clan and Sun Clan did not accept experts from outside the nation. Only the Fan Clan accepted experts from outside the nation. It was impossible for them to treat him as one of their own. To him, the Summer Wind Ancient Nation was also a form of help. It was sufficient for him to get a chance to enter. Snow Eagle, you actually earned 30,000 contribution points this time? Why did you pay so much? Southern Cloud King transmitted over. He was relatively delighted. He had just found out about the top 4 quotas from his good friend. Since I have captured Devil Monarch Yen Fire, I naturally have to grab hold of this opportunity. This time, the competition is too intense. If I don't earn enough contribution points, I might as well get more. Dongwu Shuang transmitted back. Amen, the Realm Heart God Palace is indeed worth entering. Grab hold of this opportunity. If you are lucky enough to get a top-graded secret treasure, you'll have profited greatly. Southern Cloud King was relatively happy. Dongwu Shuang had naturally made up his mind. He then returned to Feishues City alone. Within the monarch residence in Feishues City, he began closed-door cultivation. He was waiting for the day when the Realm Heart God Palace opened completely. Chapter 1136. Green feather-like snowflakes drifted down. Under the pavilion by the lake, steam rose from the wine cup. A white-robed Dongbu Shuang sat cross-legged under the pavilion. He was currently drinking from the warm wine cup. He had many avatars. The other avatars were focused on cultivating, and one was wandering outside. Primarily, he was temporarily stuck at a bottleneck in the Tao of Void. Even when the sky phase and earth phase fused together, there was still a strand of disharmony. The world was quiet. None of the female attendants dared to disturb him. There was only that huge magic dragon lying obediently by his side. It breathed out blazing air from its nostrils. The world is endless. If I had sufficient leisure time, I could bring Jingqiu along and use the Great Destruction Realm teleportation to travel across the myriad of origin worlds, seeing different civilizations and different sceneries. It's a pity that I still can't use the Great Destruction Realm teleportation. Furthermore, the danger of my hometown is right in front of me. Dongbu Shuang muttered to himself. One day, one earth. That is the world I see. When I was a transcendent deity, the biggest world I saw was a cosmos. Only after that did I find out that the cosmos is just a part of an origin world. Now we also know that in the higher realms, there are many origin worlds as well, many in number. The true appearance of the world is something only existences like Yuan could truly understand. The world seems limited and boundless at the same time. Dongbu Shuang suddenly revealed a grin. The surrounding void was ringing. The lake ahead was trembling. Many fishes were jumping around in panic. Dongbu Shuang was casually pouring wine for himself. Just previously, he broke through the bottleneck of fusing the sky phase and earth phase. He had truly stepped into the level 2 cosmos god realm. It had been 10 billion years since he became a cosmos god. With his deep foundation in the Tao of Void, he had reached the cosmos god realm in all 9 branches. With such accumulation, he had easily broken through to the level 2 cosmos god realm. This was within the expectations of Dongbu Shuang. Who would have thought that he would break through before entering the Realm Heart God Palace? This breakthrough was also a fundamental improvement to his strength. The avatar located far away in his hometown Primal Chaos Void had broken through from level 1 Cosmos God to level 2 Cosmos God. And over at the Realm Heart Great Land, Dongbu Shuang could also unleash the absolute art created by his teacher, Southern Cloud's Sacred Master, to grand perfection. He first cultivated the Southern Cloud's sacred body to the 12th level grand perfection. Furthermore, by relying on the grand perfection's Southern Cloud's sacred body, it was sufficient for him to unleash the power of the 2 absolute arts, arch destruction and spectacular painting, to grand perfection. Like the Scarlet Cloud Divine Spear, he could now display its full potential, and he had the demeanor of the Scarlet Cloud High Lord back then. Ha 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 ha! In the quiet room, holding the Crimson Cloud Divine Spear in his hand, Dongbu Shuang, whose cultivation base had greatly improved, was now able to perfectly activate every single part of the Crimson Cloud Divine Spear. When he activated it to the extreme, a faint dark vortex appeared at the tip of the spear. As long as it isn't a peaked or treasure, I can unleash its full potential. Dongbu Shuang now had the confidence to fight a High Lord head-on. Before, even though he could fight once or twice, he was completely suppressed and forced to flee. Now, he had the confidence to fight for more than 100 rounds. It was one aspect that he could perfectly unleash the power of the secret treasures in his hands. Another aspect was that his avatar technique had reached grand perfection. Avatar technique! Dongbu Shuang directly punched out. The surface of his entire body was glowing faintly. When he punched out, the surrounding world abruptly collapsed and converged. Eventually, a pitch-black hole about half the size of a human appeared. Turbulent chaotic origin energy surged in. It seemed that the chaotic origin energy from regions far away from the origin world was also surging in. It was too concentrated and too massive. This was the pinnacle of arch destruction. When he punched out, it was tyrannical to the extreme. At this moment, techniques like arch destruction, spectacular painting, and 5 phases sealing technique were no longer any different. Because at the primal chaos realm, the 5 phases sealing technique relied on the fusion of 5 branches. Only then could it transcend beyond arch destruction and spectacular painting. And the grand perfection technique of arch destruction was a move that fused a total of 5 branches together. Spectacular painting was also a move that fused 4 branches together. Currently, Dongbu Shuiying had merely fused 2 branches together. He had to rely on the 12th level Grand Perfection Southern Cloud Sacred Body before he could execute these 2 techniques. Naturally, the power of these 2 techniques was comparable to the Grand Perfection level of 5 phases sealing technique. The closer he got to the peak, their techniques were also comparable. It was just that they leaned towards different aspects. For instance, the Scarlet Cloud domain was a domain aspect, and the Arch Destruction was a frontal attack. The 5 phases sealing technique was used to trap the enemy. And the Great Destruction Realm teleportation was a technique that allowed one to leave the origin world and head to another origin world. It's a pity that the Southern Cloud Sacred Body was created to complement the Arch Destruction and spectacular painting. The Great Destruction Realm teleportation required one to fuse 6 branches together. Furthermore, he did not have the corresponding secret treasures to aid him. He could only slowly cultivate it. Even if he could execute it, it was meaningless. Because what he pursued was to bring other lifeforms with him through the Great Destruction Realm teleportation. That was something only Final Realm Cosmos gods could achieve. Each and every one of them is a unique skill created by our predecessors in different directions. Currently, I am standing on the shoulders of the predecessors. That's why I could grasp them so rapidly. Dongbu Shuiying understood this point. Realms and techniques were 2 different concepts to begin with. Reaching the realm. Techniques had to be created by himself. Or he could learn from others. Like the Scarlet Cloud combat technique, why did the Summer Wind Ancient Nation not impart it to outsiders? Precisely because this secret impartation technique was too difficult to deal with once it was cultivated to the later stages. Why was the 5 phases sealing technique precious too? Just look at how Devil Monarch Yen Fire was trapped by Dongbu Shuiying. Usually, it was hard to kill an expert of similar strength. But the 5 phases sealing technique allowed experts of similar strength to kill the other party. If the other party could not escape, he would be sucked into the 5 phase beads. That would be the end. Hua hua hua. The surging chaotic origin energy transformed Dongbu Shuiying's soul once again. The restrictions imposed by the supreme law became weaker. Many faint light rays flew out from the bodies of Dongbu Shuiying. They flew to the side and condensed into new bodies. Many bodies were condensing. At the same time, his soul was rapidly recovering and becoming stronger. More and more avatars were sitting cross-legged in the cultivation room. More than 100, more than 1,000. The originally spacious cultivation room was now filled to the brim with many figures. It could no longer hold any more. Since he has cultivated the avatar technique to this stage, it is incredibly difficult to kill him. Dongbu Shuiying thought. As long as one avatar survived, that avatar would not die. Currently, it could not be considered heaven-defying. Because if one wanted to kill him, without the protection of Southern Cloud King, terrifying existences like Limitless City Master could still kill all avatars of Dongbu Shuiying in the realm Heart Great Land with a thought. As for the protection of Southern Cloud King, it was not completely flawless. Like Limitless City Master, Emperor Summer, and a few others, they could kill all other living beings within the Southern Cloud Nation other than Southern Cloud King. It's just that Southern Cloud King had relied on the Fan clan of the Summer Wind Ancient Nation. Emperor Summer would not act for no reason. Limitless City Master was even in unparalleled existence with the best temper. No matter what, if he executed the Great Destruction Realm teleportation technique and sent several avatars to other origin worlds, then Dongbu Shuiying would be qualified to be ranked as an absolute hero. 10,081 avatars. Dongbu Shuiying spent 2 days before he succeeded. With so many avatars, it could be said that he had many avatars. But under the condition of maintaining the perfect soul and heart force, he could only maintain 9 great avatars. Nonetheless, this allowed Dongbu Shuiying to not only become much stronger, his cultivation speed had also increased. Hometown, Primal Chaos Void, Lost World Corridor. Senior! The strongest destruction devil of this era, Emperor June, was currently looking respectfully at the figure in front of him. This was a muscular expert covered entirely in silvery white scales. There were a total of 12 silvery white horns on his head, and he had a silvery white scaled tail. His aura was not considered strong. It seemed to be at the primal chaos realm. But Emperor June felt respect from the bottom of his heart. Because in the past, when he traveled across many sacred worlds in the dark and reached the level 2 Cosmos God realm, he would often see the senior in his dreams when he was half asleep. In his dreams, this senior would guide and teach him, allowing him to cultivate rapidly. You have currently reached the pinnacle of level 2 Cosmos God realm, the silvery scaled muscular figure coldly said. Currently, you must break through as soon as possible and reach the final realm of Cosmos God. After reaching the final realm, make use of the opportunity to destroy. Being a destruction devil, the more you destroy, the more benefits you will receive from the origin world. It is only in this era. In the next era, you won't receive such benefits even if you destroy. Yes, this junior understands. Emperor June lowered his head. The destruction devils were born for the sake of destruction. The origin world gave birth to them precisely for them to destroy. The more they destroyed, the more benefits they would receive. And this was limited to a single era. In the next era, he would no longer be qualified to destroy on behalf of the Supreme Law. First reach the final realm before destroying, and you will receive a huge reward. It will allow you to accumulate sufficient strength. Only in the subsequent eras can you work hard to break through the cage and reach the next level. The silvery scaled muscular figure waved his hand, causing a black flower to float in front of Emperor June. This is a cultivation treasure. It will be greatly beneficial to you. Don't disgrace me by not even reaching the final realm of Cosmos God. The silvery scaled muscular figure said. Senior, please rest assured. Emperor June replied. Go. The silvery scaled muscular figure suddenly felt something. He waved his hand, and Emperor June immediately bowed respectfully before retreating. And on this void corridor, the voice of another indigo-robed male appeared on the other side of the silvery-scaled muscular figure. Lord Lo Qing. The silvery-scaled muscular figure revealed a grin. Long time no see. Why? Do you have any objections to me guiding the descendants of my destruction devils? Brother Jean. The indigo-robed male was none other than Lord Lo Qing. At this moment, he sighed indifferently. Why the need? Isn't it better to give these brats more time? As long as a comrade emerges, so what if more of them die? This junior, Emperor June, is a destruction devil. He naturally has to destroy. The more he destroys, the more benefits he will receive. And this opportunity only exists in this era. Only in this era can he act on behalf of the Supreme Law. Once he misses this opportunity, he will forever miss it. The silvery-scaled muscular figure chuckled. I am merely guiding the destruction devils. I did not violate the agreement in the past. All right, I have personally brewed some wine. Do you want to have a taste? Lord Lo Qing nodded. All right. You are too benevolent. Every moment, countless beings are dying and being born. Why do you care so much? The silvery-scaled muscular figure chuckled. Chapter 1137. Within the primal chaos void, there was a huge ship traveling. Within the ship were Dongbui Shuang, Jing Qiu, Dongbui Yu, Dongbui Qin Yao, and some of the younger generations of the siblings. The majority of the others were cultivating in some of the meditation rooms on the ship. As for Dongbui Shuang and his wife, they were in a spacious hall on the ship. They were looking at the outside world through the transparent walls of the ship. The primal chaos void was lonely, and all sorts of destructive materials were hidden within. Through the primal chaos void, they could see a huge cosmos in the distance. As the ship moved forward, the cosmos was rapidly getting closer and further away. Another floating continent could be seen. Even with Dongbui Shuang and Jing Qiu's strength, they could see the countless lifeforms on the floating continent. Snow Eagle, when your soul was forced to dissipate by Sacred Master, this is the day I looked forward to the most. Jing Qiu and Dongbu Shuang were seated cross-legged. They were drinking the fruit wine they liked. Jing Qiu's taste was different from Dongbu Shuang. Dongbu Shuang preferred plain wine, and Jing Qiu preferred unique and stimulating fruit wine. The primal chaos void is really huge. There are so many cosmos too. Jing Qiu looked to the distance. As the ship got closer, the cosmos became bigger in front of her. Even though there are a few great sacred worlds, Dongbu Shuang said. But in reality, the total number of life forms in the cosmos far exceeds that of the sacred world. For the sake of chasing after the destruction devils, Shuang was clear of how many cosmos there were. Ever since the primitive ancient sacred world shattered, the ancient sacred world like Sacred Masters is only about 1% of its original size. The myriad ancient sacred world, Eastern Unicorn sacred world, and Ancestor Mother world are even worse off than the ancient sacred world. That time after the primitive ancient sacred world shattered, the origin source energy dissipated. Many cosmos were born, and the life forms in each cosmos seem unremarkable when compared to the sacred world. But when they are densely packed together, they far surpass the sacred world. Dongbu Shuang said. Fortunately, every cosmos repels outsiders. Hence, it is hard for Sacred Master to spread his religion. Amen? Dongbu Shuang and Jing Qiu turned their heads to look. A blurry silhouette passed through the palace wall from the outside and entered the hall. The silhouette solidified. It was a man in a dark blue robe. Lord Lo Qing. Dongbu Shuang stood up in shock. Greetings, Lord Lo Qing. Jing Qiu also stood up and bowed. At the same time, she said, Snow Eagle, you guys talk. Jing Qiu immediately retreated. Only Dongbu Shuang and Lord Lo Qing were left in the hall. Dongbu Shuang felt curious and puzzled at the same time. Lord Lo Qing had a unique status in the primal chaos void. Even though he was helping the group of cosmos gods to fight against the Sacred Master, in reality, Lord Lo Qing was very mysterious, and it was rare to see him act. Nonetheless, nobody dared to belittle this Lord Lo Qing. Dongbu Shuang had been adventuring in the realm Heart Great Land. Hence, he was even more respectful towards Lord Lo Qing. He was clear. An existence who had been suppressed to the primal chaos realm by the supreme law was still able to reach the boundary of level 2 cosmos god. How terrifying was that? Dongbu Shuang, Lord Lo Qing said. I wonder why Lord Lo Qing is here. Dongbu Shuang asked. You have reached the level 2 cosmos god realm? What a great talent. It isn't any weaker than your great void heaven temple's sword master, Lord Lo Qing said. Dongbu Shuang was inwardly startled. He had yet to publicize the matter of him breaking through. If he did not display it, how would Lord Lo Qing know about it? Don't be nervous. As you stand there, you can sense the degree of integration with the surrounding origin world. The surrounding void will fluctuate along with your willpower. All of these reveal your realm, and I can see through it with a single glance, Lord Lo Qing said. Dongbu Shuang was stunned. Degree of integration with the origin world? Void and willpower? He understood it, but why did he feel that it was unfathomable? In his opinion, he had comprehended the Tao. If he did not display it, it would be impossible for him to see through it. You have yet to jump out of this cage. If there is a day when you can jump out of this origin world, you will understand, Lord Lo Qing said. Lord Lo Qing has already jumped out of this cage. Dongbu Shuang felt startled. He immediately asked. Lord Lo Qing nodded. Dongbu Shuang could not help but feel his heart racing. He had long guessed that Lord Lo Qing's realm was abnormally high. It's just that the other party had been suppressing his power at the primal chaos realm. Thus, he guessed that the other party should be from another origin world. It's just that he did not dare to confirm whether the other party had reached the legendary realm, jumping out of this origin world cage and reaching another level of life. I came here because I have something to tell you, Lord Lo Qing said. Originally, I thought that this origin world would need 1,80032, 1 billion years before the Great Apocalypse would occur. According to the normal expansion of an origin world, this should be the case. It's just that there is a variable. The speed of the apocalypse of your hometown might be greatly accelerated. Greatly accelerated? The pupils of Dongwu Shuang dilated. The comprehension ability of Emperor Jun of the Destruction Devils is extremely high. He has already reached the final limit of Level 2 Cosmos God. With the help of another chaotic origin expert, it is highly possible for him to break through to the final realm of Cosmos God. The moment he breaks through, being a destruction devil born in this era, he is born to destroy. The more he destroys, the more the supreme law of the origin world will bestow upon him. Emperor Jun will definitely destroy wantonly. If a final realm Cosmos God destroys as he pleases, it would greatly increase the rate of destruction of the entire origin world. Lord Loqing said. Dongwu Shuang could not help but ask. Another chaotic origin expert helping? What is a chaotic origin expert? His strength isn't any weaker than mine. Lord Loqing said. Dongwu Shuang understood. That was also a terrifying existence that could jump out of the cage of the origin world. Some of those in the same generation as me feel that even if all living beings in an era die, a final realm Cosmos God could be born. Then this era is considered not bad. Only a final realm Cosmos God could survive under the destruction of the supreme law and have the possibility of jumping out of this cage. Lord Loqing said. But I feel that all living beings should be given a chance. In your era, only you and the Sword Master have some hope. Lord Loqing extended his hand. A black seed appeared in his palm. He lightly threw it. The seed landed on the metallic ground of the hall. Chi. Without a sound, the seed quickly sprouted. Its roots pierced into the ground and swayed as it grew rapidly like a vine. Its leaves were emerald green, and flower buds began to appear. There were a total of 9 flower buds of different colors. 1 flower, 1 world. Lord Loqing said. Every world will have its birth and wither and be destroyed. The moment your true body enters these 9 world flowers, the world flowers will gradually blossom until they wither. From blossom to wither, it will only take 100,000 years. Myriad existences will be born in every world. Many living beings will reproduce, but they are all mortals. There are no transcendents appearing. But these worlds will wither within a short 100,000 years. Its void is constantly changing, and it is a supreme treasure for comprehending the Tao of void. The 9 world flowers represent the different interpretations of the Tao of void. They represent 9 opportunities. World flower seeds are rare. Cherish them well. I can only do this much for your era. Lord Loqing said. Dongwu Shuang looked at the 9 world flowers in front of him. He could not help but feel startled. He knew. A huge opportunity. It was absolutely a huge opportunity. This was something he could not get even in the Summer Wind Ancient Nation. He could hear that Lord Loqing should be helpful to both him and Sword Master. Treasure your time and grab hold of this opportunity. Luo's City Lord glanced at Shuang. The remaining time is short, and it might seem unfair to you. It might seem unfair, but there is no such thing as absolute fairness. I understand. Many thanks, Senior. Dongwu Shuang felt grateful in his heart. Lord Loqing chuckled. When he helped others, it was based on their character. For those with a wicked personality, no matter how talented they were, it would be good if Lord Loqing did not sabotage them in the dark. Hua! Lord Loqing's figure soon dissipated. Dongwu Shuang had a solemn expression. At this moment, he understood why Lord Loqing rarely asked about various matters in the past. To such existences, the experience in the primal chaos void was most likely a simple journey. Lord Loqing was like a spectator observing everything. World flower? Dongwu Shuang looked at the 9 flower buds in front of him. With a thought. An avatar immediately appeared by the side. After all, he had a total of 9 avatars here in the primal chaos void. The soul of this black-robed avatar rapidly rose. Even the soul of his current physical body had become slightly weaker. The black-robed avatar had reached his peak state. Every world flower, from blooming to withering, only takes 100,000 years. The black-robed avatar then dived into a pink flower bud at the lowest level. As the black-robed avatar got closer, the pink flower bud became bigger and bigger in his vision. It became bigger and bigger until it was boundless, and his body entered a vast world. Chapter 1138. The world was in a state of primal chaos. When Dongbush Shuang landed on the ground, the myriad existences had yet to be born. There was only the surging energy spreading in all directions. Thunder clapped, the gale whistled, the waves rose to the sky, and the volcanoes erupted, and the black-robed Dongbush Shuang was seated cross-legged on a mountain peak. Being a cosmos god, he enveloped the entire world with his consciousness. He was carefully sensing the intense changes happening in this world. 1,000 years later, the world became distinct, and the world became stable. Plants, fishes, and insects were born. All sorts of animals appeared. There were even humans with dense hair appearing. At this moment, they were very barbaric. Ho! Ho! A team of savage hunters discovered a black-robed man seated on the mountain peak. There were all sorts of phenomena happening around the black-robed man. There seemed to be an endless world behind him, and the surrounding void was either collapsing, tearing, or slicing apart, but all of them were restricted within a region of 100 meters. These savages were speaking a simple language. At the same time, they were carefully approaching the black-robed man. They were curious about a being who had smooth skin and was similar to them. But when they reached 100 meters away from the black-robed man, they could no longer get any closer. There was an unseen obstruction obstructing them. This group of savages looked at each other. They let out low growls before kneeling down and kowtowing. Thus, there was a tribe in the surroundings that had a totem. On the totem, there was a black-robed man seated cross-legged. Dongbush Shuang was constantly sensing the changes in the void within this world. The mountain peak he was at was covered in a bewildering array. Only a fortunate person could get close to him every 100 years. He was practicing some of the phenomena, and if one's comprehension ability was high enough, he should be able to comprehend some profound mysteries. Dongbush Shuang wanted to make use of this opportunity to see if it was true that transcendence could not be born in this world where there were only ordinary beings and no transcendence. There was a young man who was fortunate enough to see Dongbush Shuang through the bewildering array, comprehending an absolute sword technique that could defeat 10,000 soldiers with a single sword. There was also an old man who saw Dongbush Shuang through the bewildering array and comprehended a cultivation technique. He lived for more than 100 years, yet he could not be considered a transcendent. Dongbush Shuang soon understood. From blooming to withering, the world flower changed too quickly. It was changing, the void was changing, and the internal laws were changing. Even if he comprehended a small portion of the law's profundities, the laws of the world would continue to change. What he had comprehended in the past was already outdated. He could no longer use the world's energy. With the speed at which the world was changing, no matter how talented he would not be able to become a transcendent. Even if he succeeded, the rules would change and his strength would immediately decrease, turning him back into a mortal. Only after becoming a cosmos god could the surrounding laws avoid him. That was why he was not affected at all. How mystical! The laws can also change continuously, Dongbush Shuang exclaimed in surprise. And the evolution of the Tao of Void. All sorts of Void Tao were being displayed. If an invincible existence were to demonstrate his moves for the younger generation to watch, it would be incredible if he could only demonstrate it 8 or 10 times. But this world flower was equivalent to slowly practicing an entire set of void path moves for 100,000 years. Dongbush Shuang reckoned that even after reaching the final realm in the Tao of Void, the other party would not be able to display such comprehensive techniques. A single world flower seems to have reached the peak of the Void Tao. 9 world flowers represent 9 opportunities. If the other world flowers are different, could they evolve into something new? Dongbush Shuang was looking forward to it. He felt as though his horizons were being broadened. Even the personal disciples of unparalleled existences did not enjoy such treatment. It's a pity that 9 opportunities would total 900,000 years. It would be better if it was longer. Realm Heart Great Land. Dongwu Shuang arrived at the capital of Southern Cloud Nation. Teacher, I wish to cultivate the Southern Cloud sacred body to the 12th level grand perfection. I need 2 sets. Dongwu Shuang found his teacher, Southern Cloud King. Southern Cloud King was slightly startled. 2 sets? Previously, he had given a set to Dongwu Shuang. Because he had said before that once his disciple's realm reached a certain level, he would give him the materials to cultivate the Southern Cloud sacred body for free. Naturally, he would only give him 1 set. Otherwise, with so many avatars, how could a new avatar continue cultivating after the death of an avatar? Even if he was wealthy, it was impossible for him to provide a huge amount of precious materials. This is the Devil Heart Bell. It is just nice to exchange for 2 sets. Dongwu Shuang chuckled as he passed it over to his teacher, Southern Cloud King. Southern Cloud King hesitated slightly before receiving it with a smile. Originally, he did not care about it. But if he kept giving benefits to his disciple, this disciple would feel uncomfortable in his heart. I haven't collected many materials required to cultivate to grand perfection. Southern Cloud King chuckled. And you want 2 sets at once? Adding the previous time, you will have 3 sets. Why do you need so many? It is sufficient for you to have 1 main avatar when fighting outside. You still have the 5 phase beads and the Scarlet Cloud God's Spear. Whether you cultivate the Southern Cloud sacred body or not, it won't be of much help to your strength. I have a plan, Dongwu Shuang said. It seems you brat must take a huge gamble this time after entering the Realm Heart God Palace. Southern Cloud King waved his hand, causing a golden ring to fly over to Dongwu Shuang. This storage wristband contains 2 sets of materials. Amen. Dongwu Shuang received it. 2 sets of materials were extremely expensive. The price was comparable to that of the Devil Heart Bell. Actually, the Devil Heart Bell was useless to him currently. It had been 10 billion years since he became a cosmos god. Even though his attainments in the Mirage and Illusory realm were far inferior to his Tao of Void, he had still reached the cosmos god realm in the world, bewilderment, and desire branches. The other 2 branches were still stuck at the primal chaos realm. As for fusion? That was far from it. One had to know that not long after breaking through in the Tao of Void, he had reached the Cosmos God realm in all 9 branches. And now, he had even fused the Sky phase and Earth phase together, reaching the level 2 Cosmos God realm. His improvement was much faster than in the Tao of Mirage. No other choice. His foundation in the Tao of Void was deeper. In the past, he had been comprehending the Mirage and Illusory realm by himself. Currently, he had obtained a precious Heart Realm scripture, but this scripture was merely a level 2 Cosmos God scripture. It was not sufficient in guiding the Mirage and Illusory realm. Like the Chaotic Origin Tao scroll, just the body cultivation technique required one to fuse 8 branches together. Furthermore, the guidance on fusing each branch was extremely detailed. Furthermore, his teacher, Southern Cloud King, was a great expert in the Tao of Void. He had all sorts of scriptures. Furthermore, he created the 9 rotation undying technique by fusing all 9 branches together. Regardless of whether it was his foundation or external conditions, they were too good. Comparatively speaking, cultivating the Mirage and Illusory realm was much more taxing. The Devil Heart Bell was merely a level 10 Cosmos God Mirage and Illusory realm treasure. It contained 2 great techniques, Bewilderment Sound and World. Both branches of Dongwu Shuang had reached the Cosmos God realm. Hence, he did not need the Devil Heart Bell to execute them. He could even execute 3 branches at the same time. With these 2 sets of materials, I should be able to become much stronger. This time, I must grab hold of this opportunity to enter the Realm Heart God Palace. Dongwu Shuang thought. He understood that before his hometown Primal Chaos Void was destroyed, he would most likely not have a second chance to enter. Finally, 100,000 years after the Realm Heart God Palace started emitting ripples. Everyone, come to the Summer Wind Imperial Palace. Emperor Summer's voice sounded by the ears of Dongbush Shuiying. Within the cultivation room, 9 Dongbush Shuiyings were seated cross-legged here. Even though he had more than 10,000 avatars, only 9 could maintain their peak state. It is time to set off. The 9 of them stood up. Hua! The other 8 turned into light and entered the Eden treasure. As for Dongbush Shuiying, he simply waved his hand, opening up a destruction realm teleportation path that led out of the Summer Wind capital. Arriving outside the capital, Shuiying entered through the city gates. Stepping on the void, he soon arrived at the Imperial Palace. He had arrived practically at the same time as Fire Devil Paragon Master. The 2 of them were also the last to arrive. Emperor Summer, Emperor Tsang. Dongbush Shuiying saw the 2 of them. Emperor Summer was still dressed in a black luxurious robe. His unseen aura was illusory, yet it felt high up as if he was looking down on the masses. As for the other Emperor Tsang, his surroundings were vast and boundless. Vaguely, there was a great terror emanating from him. It felt as if every action of his could kill some cosmos gods. But Dongbush Shuiying understood that it was because they had supreme-graded secret treasures that they could have such terrifying power. Everyone is here. Emperor Summer swept his gaze across before nodding. Remember, you are not allowed to bring any other lifeforms along. Not even pets bred. As long as they are intelligent lifeforms, every single one of them will represent a quota. Dongbush Shuiying and the others understood this common knowledge. Naturally, no matter how many avatars or incarnations one had, they were still a single life form because they shared the same soul. Go! Emperor Summer and Emperor Tsang then brought them along. Hua! In an instant, they arrived above the vast and boundless black prisonine sea. Here, the waves were surging, and the seawater was dark. Emperor Summer brought the group of cultivators and charged downwards. Almost instantaneously, they had penetrated through the entire seawater layer. Pu. Deep within the seawater, there were many layers of unseen obstructions. That was the obstruction emitted by the Realm Heart God Palace. After penetrating through the stone layer beneath the sea, in the blink of an eye, Dongbush Shuiying and the others could see a huge chain of palaces deep underground. They were emitting a dazzling light that illuminated the entire place. Many of the palaces were emitting auras. Some were from top-graded secret treasures, and some were from supreme-graded secret treasures. All sorts of auras permeated the place, causing every cosmos god to feel excited. Chapter 1139. Myriad Realms Ancient Nation, Summer Wind Ancient Nation, Icy Snow Ancient Nation, Primogenitor Ancient Nation, Towering Sky Ancient Nation, and Moonflower Ancient Nation. Experts from the 6 great ancient nations arrived one after another. Fui and Jia Luosha are entering this time too? A man wearing a huge black cloak said with a smile. He had black skin, and there were some red patterns on his skin. His eyes were as red as blood jade. He was none other than Extreme Knight Primogenitor from Primogenitor Ancient Nation. How rare! Fui hasn't entered for a long time, right? Jia Luosha, you just entered the previous time, right? Why are you entering again? You have to give the juniors some chances. You can't monopolize everything. A total of 8 unparalleled existences appeared. They were none other than Emperor Summer, Emperor Tsang, Drifter, Extreme Knight Primogenitor, Moonflower King, and others. All of them had avatar techniques. Even Moonflower King had cultivated the Tao of Void to the Primal Chaos realm and obtained the Apex Avatar technique, allowing him to refine a second avatar. Southern Cloud King's avatar technique was considered ordinary in the Realm Heart Great Land. It was far inferior to the lineage of Myriad Realm Tavern Master Mount Chime. I've always been stuck at a bottleneck. This time, I decided to enter to seek for opportunities. Great Paragon Fui chuckled. It's Brother Moonflower who asked me to enter. I have to listen to Brother Moonflower. Jia Luosha was an absolute beauty wearing a translucent white muslin robe. But in reality, she was a fierce and ambitious character that was famous across the entire Realm Heart Great Land. She was even vaguely stronger than Yama Religion Master and Western Floating Old Ancestor. However, she had pledged allegiance to the Yuehua monarch, and the Yuehua monarch had become her brother and sister. In addition, Garosa was a demon among demons and was extremely powerful. Even invincible existences could not kill her, so many invincible existences gave her face. The 8 unparalleled existences, Great Paragon Fui and Jia Luosha, were conversing. Even though Great Paragon Fui and Jia Luosha were relatively humble, they were clearly respected by the unparalleled existences. As for the others, the unparalleled existences did not care about them. Since they could easily kill them, why would they care? Of the remaining 29, close to half of them were Paragon Masters. Those weaker than Shuang could be counted with one's fingers. They were all absolute geniuses nurtured by the various superpowers. Even in the Realm Heart God Palace, there were experts from their clans helping them. As for Dongbu Shuang, who came from the southern Cloud Nation, it was fated that nobody could shelter him in a place like the Realm Heart God Palace. Hua! Eternal Night Primogenitor swept his gaze across. An unseen soul ripple swept across every single cosmos god present, causing Dongbu Shuang to feel uncomfortable. He could not help but look at Eternal Night Primogenitor. Eternal Night Primogenitor was similarly draped in a black cape just like Extreme Night Primogenitor, just that his cape had golden patterns on it, making it more dazzling. Eternal Night Primogenitor had a fair complexion and was slightly more handsome. His eyes seemed to be able to see through everyone's soul. "I've checked. No one is secretly carrying other living beings," Amotian Monarch said with a smile. "Enter," Eternal Night Primogenitor ordered. He and Extreme Night Primogenitor brought the 3 cosmos gods in. "Let's go. Let's go." The 6 ancient nations split into 6 teams and entered. Dongbu Shuang naturally followed Emperor Xia, Emperor Tsang, and the others. There were a total of 12 of them. Only the team from the Myriad Realms Ancient Nation could compete with them. As for the teams from the Moonflower Ancient Nation and Towering Sky Ancient Nation, they only had 2 people. The main entrance of the Realm Heart God Palace was tall and towering. At this moment, it was wide open. Dongbu Shuang followed the team through the entrance. At the same time, the surrounding space started transforming. In the blink of an eye, they appeared on a stone path shrouded in white fog. Ahead of the stone path was a fork. There were 3 paths. "All of you be careful," Emperor Xia instructed. So. He and Emperor Tsang immediately flew in different directions. They began their exploration journey. "I wish everyone good luck." Great Paragon Fui chuckled. He chose a direction and flew over. In the blink of an eye, the 3 strongest experts in the team had left. Only 4 great paragons, 2 level 2 cosmos gods, and 3 level 1 cosmos gods remained. "According to the rules set by the 3 great clans, we will have to split up. What we can obtain in the Realm Heart God Palace will depend on our luck." Paragon Master Pu Su chuckled. The others also looked at Dongbu Shuang, Fire Devil Paragon Master, and Mount Spring Island Master. Their eyes were either filled with pity, expectation, or calmness. The messy-haired male who carried a god's sword on his back looked at Dongbu Shuang. He seemed to want to say something, yet he chose not to. "Go," Paragon Master Pu Su said. At that moment, his body let out a mystical light. This light enveloped a total of 6 people. They were members from the 3 great clans of the Summer Wind Ancient Nation, a total of 3 great paragons and 3 level 1 cosmos gods. Hua! As time changed, they silently disappeared from the vicinity. On this stone path shrouded in white fog, only Dongbu Shuang, Fire Devil Paragon Master, and Mount Spring Island Master remained. "Humph, the 3 great clans are too petty. They aren't even willing to bring us around the Realm Heart God Palace." Fire Devil Paragon Master snorted. "Fire Devil Paragon Master, can we travel together?" Mount Spring Island Master could not help but flatter the other party. The Realm Heart God Palace wasn't an easy place to barge into. By following an expert, the chances of success would be greater. Fire Devil Paragon Master glanced at him before snorting. Bring you along? I'm afraid you will spoil my plans. Saying that, Fire Devil Paragon Master chose a path and left. Mount Spring Island Master's expression sank slightly. He glanced at Dongbush swaying by the side before being too lazy to care about him. He chose another path and left. Realm Heart God Palace. Shuang stood on the stone slab path. He had obtained some intelligence from his teacher, Southern Cloud King, and understood some of the information. The Realm Heart God Palace was vast and vast. Its interior was unpredictable. But those like Emperor Summer would enter it almost every single time. Over the long years, Emperor Summer should have grasped many patterns. Nonetheless, it was impossible for Southern Cloud King to obtain much information regarding the interior of the Realm Heart God Palace. As for Southern Cloud King himself, he rarely entered the palace. The three great clans would definitely know a lot of information. Emperor Summer and the others had already ordered that the three great clans were forbidden from bringing honored guests along. Allowing honored guests to enter was considered a gift from the three great clans. Why would they bring them to some important places in the Realm Heart God Palace? I'll have to depend on my luck. Dongbush Shuang thought. The interior of the Realm Heart God Palace was filled with many mechanisms. The more valuable the treasure, the more dangerous it would be. Once one got through, one would obtain the treasure. Furthermore, one could continue exploring other places. But if one failed, it would be fine since there was no danger to his life. Instead, he would be teleported out. Sent out of the Realm Heart God Palace. This time, his adventure in the Realm Heart God Palace would end. Hence, the Realm Heart God Palace itself wouldn't put cultivators in danger of dying. Instead, it was other cosmos gods who would kill one another for treasures. Those who died in the Realm Heart God Palace were unquestionably killed by other cosmos gods. Who? Dongbush Shuang proceeded forward. Looking at the three paths ahead, he casually chose the path on the right. You don't even have a High Lord to help you, yet you dare to come here and take the risk? Fire Fiend's supremacy carefully walked. In his heart, he had sentenced Mount Spring Island Lord and Imperial Lord Feishuet to death. The two of them will probably be expelled empty-handed. Fire Devil Paragon Master was powerful, and he was famous for being tyrannical in the Summer Wind Ancient Nation. But now, he was extremely careful. The members of the three great families were also advancing. Paragon Master Pu Su, Great Paragon Lu Tian, and Paragon Master Bewitching Sword were discussing with one another. As for the other three level 1 cosmos gods, they could head to some regions under the protection of the three great paragons. It should be the left. Paragon Lord Pu Su and the other 5 had entered a huge maze. Yes, let's go. They had the intelligence that Emperor Summer, Emperor Sun, and Ancestor Fan had imparted to them regarding the various regions in the Realm Heart God Palace. This made it much easier for them to deal with any predicaments they encountered. Furthermore, the three great paragons were helping each other. For instance, even though Great Paragon Lu Tian might not be unparalleled existences and could not be killed, his combat strength was terrifying and could rival that of Great Paragon Fui. For example, Paragon Pu Su cultivated the Tao of Time, and his techniques were strange and unfathomable. Paragon Master Bewitching Sword was also the youngest great paragon in the Sun clan. He had a heaven-defying talent. With the three of them working together, and with the large amount of intelligence from Emperor Summer and the others, they could even seek for help during crucial moments. I really don't understand why that Yingshan Snow Eagle didn't take Ancestor Fan as his teacher in the past. Instead, he chose to take that Southern Cloud King as his teacher. I believe he should be regretting it now. That's right. Even if he could force his way into the Realm Heart God Palace, he would likely be trapped in 1 or 2 dangerous locations. He wouldn't be able to endure for too long before being expelled out. Those 3 level 1 cosmos gods could easily follow along. Under the protection of the other party, it was too easy. And just like what they expected, Dongbush Shuang was indeed in the dark. Amidst his cautiousness, he still fell into a dangerous situation. Chapter 1140. Originally, He was walking on the stone road, passing through several forks. Everything was peaceful, but suddenly, he stepped on one of the stone slabs, causing it to sink in. A heaven-shaking suction force acted on his body, directly swallowing Shui Ying inside. After that, the stone slabs returned to normal, and he was once again walking on an ordinary stone road. And deep underground, in a deep cave, Dongbush Shui Ying fell here. He immediately stood up and carefully observed his surroundings. Even if that expert Yuan from a higher dimension wanted to leave an opportunity for the weak, he would still set up many traps. Dongbush Shui Ying murmured inwardly. Lord Lo Qing was so generous to give him a world flower seed. Of course, firstly, it was because he and Lord Lo Qing were acquainted. Secondly, his hometown was rapidly approaching the Great Apocalypse. That was why Lord Lo Qing would give him such a gift. If I had taken Ancestor Fan as my teacher in the past, it might have been much easier. Dongbush Shui Ying gave a self-mocking chuckle. He did not regret it. After all, when he reincarnated into the realm Heart Great Land, he could not predict that he could create the 9-rotation undying technique. If he knew that he was so formidable, he was confident of accumulating enough contribution points to exchange for the Avatar technique after entering the core of the Fan clan. But it's a pity that even at his current realm, he could not predict his future accomplishments. That was why he chose his teacher, Southern Cloud King. He had long gotten the Avatar technique. The realm Heart God Palace is unpredictable. Even if I could figure out some patterns, it isn't that easy to get the treasures. Dongbush Shui Ying was convinced of this point. The difficulty of getting the treasures in the realm Heart God Palace was incredibly high. Yuan would definitely not let these juniors get the treasures easily. Even if I act alone, it is hard to say who would benefit more in the end. Hua! Wielding a scarlet cloud god's spear, Dongbush Shui Ying carefully walked in the deep cave. According to the intelligence given to him by his teacher, he should not fly recklessly in the realm Heart God Palace. He should not easily escape. If there was a path, he should walk along it. If there was a flight of stairs, he should walk along it. It was much safer this way. Emperors like Emperor Summer, Emperor Tsang, and Great Paragon Fui dared to fly because they were strong and had the confidence to deal with all kinds of dangers. Other than the top experts, even Grand Monarchs had to behave themselves. This place. Dongbush Shui Ying tried his best to sense his surroundings, but he could only feel a boundless might spreading out in all directions. The range of his senses was extremely small, and any further expansion would be blocked. Along the way. Chi. After walking for an hour, he was still moving forward in the dark underground tunnel. Suddenly, a sound came from the front. Eh? Dongbush Shui Ying raised his guard. An insect with a shiny black carapace crawled out from one of the walls, staring at Dongbush Shui Ying with its beady eyes. Both parties were merely several hundred kilometers apart. This distance was considered short at the Cosmos God level. However, Dongbush Shui Ying's domain did not detect it at all before it drilled out of the wall. Shwa! It instantly disappeared. At the same time, it appeared before Dongbush Shui Ying. Its pair of sharp claws pierced through Dongbush Shui Ying's chest. Nevertheless, this figure gradually dissipated. So fast. Dongbush Shui Ying, who wielded his spear, appeared at another location. Even though the suppression of the entire realm Heart God Palace prevented him from teleporting, and his Scarlet Cloud domain could only be maintained for 50 kilometers by relying on the God's spear, it was sufficient for him to evade the ambush of this strange beetle. This beetle is incredibly fast. It is much faster than me. Its offensive power seems to have reached the level 2 Cosmos God level. Dongbush Shui Ying immediately deduced. The black beetle suddenly spread open its carapace wings. Chi. Violet lightning was swimming around. Shwa. The black beetle's speed increased once again. It frenziedly attacked Dongbush Shui Ying. Pun. Even if Dongbush Shui Ying could rely on his Scarlet Cloud domain to evade, it was futile against the frighteningly fast speed of the other party. Just 3 clashes later, the claws of the black beetle clashed with Dongbush Shui Ying's spear. The black beetle was forced to retreat. Its small eyes stared at Dongbush Shuang. Ho! It suddenly let out a majestic roar. Chi chi chi! Very soon, sounds of chi 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 could be heard coming from the surroundings. Dongbush Shui Ying's expression changed. At that moment, many black beetles drilled out of the cavern walls. Several hundred black beetles were located at different locations within this cavern tunnel. I have just entered the Realm Heart God Palace. Dongbush Shuang no longer had the leisure mood he had before. Previously, he had the thought of researching the strength of the black beetle. But now, he was only thinking of not being chased out of the Realm Heart God Palace by these black beetles. According to the intelligence, the moment he could no longer withstand the dangers within the Realm Heart God Palace, he would be teleported out. By then, his journey in the Realm Heart God Palace would come to an end. He was not willing to fail just like that. Wang! Shuang was truly going all out. He relied on the Devil Emperor Gown to unleash the Mirage and Illusory Realm. The Grand Illusory Realm spread out in all directions. At that moment, those black beetles began shaking their heads as if they were drunk. Closely following that, they fell onto the ground and no longer had the strength to resist. Without a sound, they all sank into the depths of the ground, disappearing in an instant. Fortunately, my Mirage and Illusory Realm can restrain them, Dongbush Shuang thought. The Mirage and Illusory Realm was one of his main killing moves. After all, even great paragons relied on top-graded secret treasures to be that strong. Their souls were no different from ordinary level 2 cosmos gods. Facing against Dongbush Shui Ying's Mirage and Illusory Realm, most cultivators had to divert part of their heart force. They could no longer exert their full strength. Time passed. In the blink of an eye, 20,000 years passed. I'm out. Dongbush Shuang finally saw the light coming from ahead. With his vision, he could easily see through the end of the passage to the vast canyon outside. Even though he was excited, he still carefully walked through the final section of this tunnel. When he walked out of the cave, Dongbush Shuang could not help but feel excited. I've been trapped underground for over 20,000 years. Shuang glanced at the passage behind him. This underground passage seemed to be boundless and filled with many dangers. Shuang had tried his best to think of ways to survive until now. He had even used some life-risking techniques to survive until now. Fortunately, I've exchanged for 2 sets of materials from my teacher before coming to the Realm Heart God Palace, allowing me to cultivate the Southern Cloud's sacred body to the 12th level grand perfection. Shuang thought, if not for this move, I'm afraid I would have been expelled from the underground world. Every time the Realm Heart God Palace opened, many cultivators would enter. Furthermore, most of them had some background. Those like Dongbush Shuang who did not have any background could be counted with one's fingers. But even so, those with a strong background and detailed information provided by unparalleled existences were few and far between. Amen? Dongbush Shuang saw an enormous canyon in front of him, and a metal bridge that led across the canyon. He immediately walked along a small path towards the entrance of the metal bridge. According to the information provided by his teacher, in the Realm Heart God Palace, one had to walk on the path, cross the bridge, and take the stairs. Regardless, one had to follow the intentions of the creator of the Realm Heart God Palace. That way, one would not suffer much. If one were to be foolish and not walk on the metal bridge, and instead fly across the canyon, a huge crisis would descend immediately. Of course, it was a different story if Emperor Summer and the others dared to resist. Given his strength, it was better for him to walk obediently. So cold. Walking on the metal bridge. The metal bridge was incomparably cold. As Dongbush Shuang walked on it, an unseen chill seeped through his feet and into his entire body. It felt as if the pinnacle of voidification could not completely resist it. The pinnacle of voidification was often restrained in the Realm Heart God Palace. Clearly, to experts who had jumped out of this cage world, the pinnacle of voidification was not worth mentioning. Halfway across the metal bridge. Hua! The boundless frost soon condensed into a mutated beast whose entire body was covered in frost. He had a long tail and 3 heads. Kill! Instantly, Dongbua Shuang split into three. Three Dongbua Shui Ying's aura shot up into the sky. One of them carried a spear on his back and relied on the spear to execute a combined technique. An enormous maelstrom appeared in between the three Dongbua Shui Yings. Every single one of them emitted a faint light, and punched out at the same time. For a moment, three terrifying forces rapidly converged at a single point. Hong, Grand Perfection Arch Destruction. Three avatars, combined technique. That frost-mutated beast was already having a hard time under the effects of the mirage and illusory realm. Following that, an enormous pitch-black hole appeared in front of it. This frost-mutated beast was directly torn apart by the pitch-black hole. The remaining parts of its body were also destroyed by the shockwave from this attack. Settled. The three Dongbua Shui Ying stood on the metal bridge. They revealed a grin. He had fought underground for over 20,000 years, and had already perfected the fusion technique of Arch Destruction and Scarlet Cloud Combat technique. Grand Perfection Arch Destruction was originally a great killing technique that fused 5 branches together. Furthermore, it was famous for its power. 3 techniques were perfectly fused together using a combined technique. Its power was even more horrifying. It should have reached the boundary of level 3 Cosmos God Standard, and was currently the strongest technique of Dongbua Shuang. After encountering 3 waves of danger on the metal bridge, Dongbua Shuang arrived at the other end of the bridge. To the distance, he could already see a palace hall. I can finally see the palace hall. Dongbua Shuang felt excited in his heart. According to the experiences of the predecessors, the palace hall would usually contain treasures. But similarly, it would be more dangerous. Dongbua Shuang took a step forward and was about to enter the palace hall. Hua! An unseen ripple restricted Dongbua Shuang. Following that, Dongbua Shuang felt his vision turning illusory. Encountering danger again? Don't make me stay underground for another 20,000 years. Dongbua Shuang felt anxious. He had already seen the palace hall. Why would he encounter danger again? The void teleported. Dongbua Shuang looked ahead in a daze. This was an enormous public square. At the center of the public square, there was a pagoda that was 10 levels tall. As for the surroundings of the public square, it was shrouded in white fog. This place? Dongbua Shuang was slightly dazed. Little brat, the pagoda in front of you is the Chaotic Origin Pagoda. There are 10 levels in the Chaotic Origin Pagoda. Once you reach the 5th level, you will be able to obtain top-graded secret treasures. The higher you go, the more benefits you will get. Every Realm Heart Order holder would have such an opportunity after crossing through 2 layers of regions when they first came to the Realm Heart God Palace. You will only have one such opportunity in your life. You should grab hold of it. A voice reverberated in the mind of Dongbua Shuang. At the same time, a large amount of information related to the Chaotic Origin Pagoda appeared. Dongbua Shuang was startled. He immediately understood. Chaotic Origin Pagoda. In the Realm Heart God Palace, anything with the name Chaotic Origin was extraordinary. And reincarnated cultivators with the Realm Heart Order would only be qualified to enter the Realm Heart God Palace after crossing through 2 layers of regions safely. This was also a gift given by Yuan to those who obtained the Realm Heart Order. Now that the opportunity was given, it would depend on the juniors whether they could grab hold of it or not. Even though the crisis in this Realm Heart God Palace has descended too suddenly, the opportunity has descended too suddenly. Dongbua Shuang held his breath. Chapter 1141. Dongbua Shuang looked up at that 10-story pagoda located at the center of the plaza. His excited heart gradually calmed down. He had thought of ways to obtain an opportunity to enter the Realm Heart God Palace, and even got 2 additional sets of materials to cultivate the Southern Cloud's sacred body. Wasn't it because he wanted to become stronger so that he could survive longer in the Realm Heart God Palace and obtain more opportunities? Even though he could improve gradually by immersing himself in cultivation. But time waits for no one. Nobody knew when his hometown origin world would undergo a great apocalypse. With the guidance of predecessors or the help of experts who jumped out of the cage from a higher dimension, his cultivation speed would greatly increase. I've paid so much and struggled until now, all for the sake of an opportunity. And now, it has arrived in front of me. Dongbu Shuang thought. Even Yuan mentioned that such an opportunity only comes once in a lifetime. Once I miss it, I will no longer have another chance. I must grab hold of this opportunity. Otherwise, I'll definitely regret it in the future. Dongbu Shuang did not wish for his hometown origin world to undergo a great apocalypse, leaving him alone in the realm Heart Great Land to grieve. This was not what he wanted. Dongbu Shuang walked on the lonely plaza. He arrived before the pagoda and looked upwards. The pagoda had 10 levels and reached into the clouds. He then lowered his head and entered the pagoda. The interior of the pagoda was huge. At the center was a pillar. Surrounding the pillar were wooden stairs that led to a higher level. The moment Dongbu Shuang took a step up the wooden stairs, he felt a boundless energy repelling against his body. He could not help but take 2 steps back. It seems I have to finish carving the walls of the first level before I can enter the second level. Dongbu Shuang chuckled. He then turned his gaze to the central pillar. On the circular pillar were many profound array diagrams. They were all Tao of Void array diagrams, a total of 10 array diagrams. I've successfully carved all 10 array diagrams on the walls of the pagoda? And I can enter the second level? Dongbu Shuang swept his gaze across. There were exactly 10 walls on the first level of the pagoda. And these walls were completely bare. Previously, when that existence that seemed to be Yuan transmitted to him, he had also transmitted information regarding the Chaotic Origin Pagoda. The Chaotic Origin Pagoda had a total of 10 levels. For each level, he had to carve 10 diagrams on the inner walls of the pagoda. The diagrams all originated from the central pillar. He had to learn it. And the carving was successful. Of course, he couldn't give himself unlimited time. The maximum time limit was 1,000,000 years. If one could not carve a single array diagram within 1,000,000 years, it would be a failure. According to the final achievement, there would be different levels of bestowment. As long as he could finish carving the inner walls of the 4th floor, he would be able to step onto the 5th floor. Even if he failed, he would be given a suitable peak-grade secret treasure. 5 layers, 6 layers, 7 layers, 8 layers, 9 layers, even 10 layers. The more they could successfully complete, the more exaggerated the rewards they would receive. Amazing! Dongbu Shuang looked up at the 10 array diagrams on the central pillar. They are all profound mysteries related to the Tao of Void. Furthermore, they coincidentally fuse the profound mysteries related to the sky phase and earth phase. Unless this Chaotic Origin Pagoda displays different array diagrams according to the realm of the person who comes. He had met Lord Lo Qing before. Dongbu Shuang no longer found it strange that those Chaotic Origin experts who jumped out of the cage and entered the higher dimension could easily determine his realm. What made him startled was that the Chaotic Origin Pagoda could set different trials according to the person who came. Every array diagram can last at most 1,000,000 years. Dongbu Shuang thought, I can only stay in a single level of the pagoda for at most 10,000,000 years. 10,000,000 years might seem long. But in reality, to cosmos gods, it was just a short period of cultivation. I must spend the full 10,000,000 years in every level. Dongbu Shuang rapidly decided, and during this period, I must do my best to comprehend the Tao of Void. Lord Lo Qing has given me a total of 9 world flowers. It is worth it even if I spend 7 to 8 flowers during this period of time. No matter what, he had to keep 1 flower. He would keep it for when he fused all 9 branches together and broke through to the final realm Cosmos God. Dongbu Shuiying's avatar in his hometown Primal Chaos Void was currently cultivating and feeling the mysteriousness of the world flower. His understanding of the Tao of Void was continuously improving. Actually, Dongbu Shuiying had just broken through to the level 2 Cosmos God realm not too long ago. He had yet to reach a bottleneck, and was improving continuously. It was just that he had the world flower that greatly accelerated his improvement. 10th level of the Chaotic Origin Pagoda? Dongbu Shuiying could guess it himself. He believed it would get harder the higher he went. Furthermore, there was a time limit. Clearly, Yuan was testing the absolute geniuses who obtained the realm heart order and reincarnated within a relatively short period, within a few tens of millions of years, to see how far they could improve. Clearly, those who obtained the realm heart order were all geniuses. But only the most dazzling and most talented amongst them were worthy of being nurtured by Yuan. Ever since Lord Lo Qing gave him the world flower seed, saying, "I can only do this much for your era," Dongbu Shuang understood that the more heaven-defying an item was, the more chaotic origin experts could not take it out whenever they wanted. It was rare to see such an item. Chaotic origin pagoda. It was a kind of trial. Only those who were sufficiently outstanding were worthy of being nurtured by Yuan. No matter if it is Yuan or Lord Lo Qing, or even that expert who nurtured Emperor Jun, it seems they are existences from a higher level. They wish for us to reach their level. Dongbu Shuang suddenly had this thought. Some absolute experts. They would want to destroy the geniuses they saw. They wanted to obstruct them. They did not wish for the geniuses to reach his level. But Yuan, Lord Lo Qing, and the one who nurtured Emperor Jun, the three chaotic origin experts he knew of, did not obstruct him. Instead, they were helping him. Why am I thinking so much? To them, reaching the final realm of cosmos gods is barely possible for them to fight for a higher realm. Dongbu Shuang shook his head inwardly. He knew that this final step would be very difficult. Like all the final realm cosmos gods he knew, including Emperor Summer and the others, including Sacred Master and Old Monster Stone, he had never heard of anyone breaking through to that final step. Wait till I become a final realm cosmos god before I can understand these secrets. Dongbu Shuang no longer thought about it. Staring at the pillar before him, he carefully examined the 10 array diagrams. Let's begin. The 10 array diagrams on the first level were based on the fusion of the two branches of the Tao of Void, Sky Phase and Earth Phase. Dongbu Shuiying's foundation was originally deep. Because he had reached the final realm cosmos god in all 9 branches, and currently, he was cultivating in the world flower at his hometown. Hence, he comprehended the 10 array diagrams after a short moment. If he was willing, he could easily complete the carvings on the inner walls. But he was not in a rush. He had to spend the full 10 million years. The longer he spent, the greater his improvement would be. He had just become a level 2 cosmos god not too long ago, and had just gotten the world flower. What he needed was time to grow. Time passed. Dongbu Shuang would carve an array diagram on the last day of every million years. He easily completed it in one go. A world flower would take just 100,000 years from blooming to wilting. Dongbu Shuang, be it the avatars in his hometown Primal Chaos Void or the many avatars here, were all doing their best to comprehend it. During the 100,000 years when the world flower bloomed, he would improve the fastest. After it wilted, he would continue to reflect on it. Even after 3 million years, he still improved at a rapid pace. Later on, his improvement would naturally slow down. Even though he was improving at a rapid pace, the 9 branches of the Tao of Void were vast. Fusing them together would result in endless profound mysteries. The 10 million years is up. On the last day of 10 million years, when Dongbu Shuang finished carving the 10th array diagram, the wooden stairs of the pagoda immediately let out light. Above him, there was a rumbling sound. The higher levels which were originally obstructed by an unseen restriction could now be seen with a single glance. Following that, Dongbu Shuang walked up the wooden stairs. This time, he did not feel any repulsion. Soon, he arrived at the second level of the chaotic origin pagoda. Sweeping his gaze across. The second level of the chaotic origin pagoda similarly had a circular pillar at the center. On the circular pillar were 10 array diagrams. The surrounding walls of the pagoda were empty. Dongbu Shuang did not waste any time. He calmly observed the more profound 10 array diagrams on the circular pillar, and began studying them. Star. Chapter 1142. The array diagrams on the second level were indeed more profound. Dongbu Shuang dissected them one by one. Even though he encountered some difficulties, he was able to comprehend them after spending some time. Over 1,000 years after stepping into the second-level pagoda, Dongbua Shuang had comprehended 8 array diagrams. As he comprehended the 9th array diagram, he suddenly became startled. Fusing 3 branches together? Dongbua Shuang might feel joyous in his heart, but it was not strange for him to break through. One had to know that the Tao of Void had a total of 9 branches. When one reached the level 2 Cosmos God realm, most would fuse 3 branches together relatively quickly. It wasn't too difficult to fuse 3 or 4 branches together. But the further one went, the harder it would become. At the final fusing 9 branches together, it had even obstructed many absolute experts. His foundation was sturdy, and he had comprehended the entire process of a world flower from blooming to withering. Currently it had been more than 10 million years, and it was natural for him to fuse 3 branches together. But, it's the array diagrams. As I was comprehending the array diagrams, I managed to break through the final bottleneck, allowing the sky phase, earth phase, and empty phase to completely fuse together. Dongbua Shuang looked at the array diagrams on the pillar in front of him with great joy. These array diagrams, other than being a trial, are actually a form of guidance for me to improve. The array diagrams were indeed becoming more profound. But precisely because of this, his understanding of the Tao of Void would become deeper as he comprehended them. His realm would naturally improve. The Chaotic Origin Pagoda, other than being a trial, is by itself an opportunity to guide me in cultivation. Dongbua Shuang felt delighted. 9 branches of the void. Sky phase, earth phase, violent phase, mist phase, origin phase, empty phase, line phase, myriad phase, and nirvana phase. Like the arch-destruction which Southern Cloud King imparted to Dongbua Shuang, its core was the empty phase lineage. Using the empty phase lineage as the foundation and absorbing the other 4 phases, only then could one reach grand perfection. Naturally, Dongbua Shuang was relying on the Southern Cloud's sacred body to unleash the power of grand perfection. Continue. Dongbua Shuang had just fused 3 branches together. Inspiration was gushing out like a spring. He allowed the avatar at his hometown Primal Chaos Void to consolidate its realm, while the avatar at the Realm Heart Great Land continued comprehending these array diagrams. The 9th and 10th diagrams were easy. In truth, these 2 diagrams were still used to guide the fusion of the sky aspect, earth aspect, and emptiness aspect. Now that the fusion had been successful, it was only natural that he would be able to quickly understand these 2 diagrams. Guide my cultivation? Dongbua Shuang was overjoyed. The reason why he did not realize this when he was on the first level of the pagoda was because he was cultivating in the world flower and had accumulated a lot of experience. He quickly understood the 10 diagrams on the first level of the pagoda and did not feel that they were of much help to him. On the second floor, he was immersed in cultivation and did not think too much about it. Only when he was breaking through did he realize that these formation diagrams were extremely helpful in fusing 3 meridians together. The world flower is an opportunity bestowed upon me by the Lord Lo Qing. From the looks of it, it's probably the only great opportunity he's bestowed upon me. The Chaotic Origin Pagoda is also a great opportunity given to the possessor of the Realm Heart Order the first time he enters. Furthermore, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Both of these great fortuitous encounters only happen once. Dongbua Shuang was clear that this might be the fastest time he could improve in the Cosmos God realm. After all, he had 2 great opportunities with him. But it would be better for him to improve faster. Because if he missed this opportunity, it would be hard for him to find another opportunity to improve by leaps and bounds in the future. Time passed. Within the Chaotic Origin Pagoda, Dongbua Shuang was fully focused on cultivating and comprehending those array diagrams. His avatars in the 2 origin worlds did not relax for a single moment. And in the Realm Heart Great Land, many experts who entered the Realm Heart God Palace in the past were chased out too. For instance, Mount Spring Island Master who obtained 4 quotas from the Summer Wind Ancient Nation was chased out just 3,000 years after entering the Realm Heart God Palace. He was also the first of the 12 experts from the Summer Wind Ancient Nation to be chased out. The second was a level 1 cosmos god from the Summer Wind Ancient Nations Tsung clan, Eyebrow Wind Master, who was chased out 10 million years after the opening of the Realm Heart God Palace. Clearly, he had the help of Paragon Masters from the 3 great clans. It was amazing for a level 1 cosmos god to survive until now. Following that, more experts were chased out. 50 million years later, Great Paragon Lu Tian and Fire Devil Paragon Master were chased out at the same time. At this moment, not many experts from the Summer Wind Ancient Nation remained in the Realm Heart God Palace. Other than Emperor Summer, Emperor Tsung, and Great Paragon Fui, the remaining ones were Paragon Master Pu Su, Paragon Master Bewitching Sword, Monarch Wu Hua, Xiao Wu Hua, and the only honored guest, Monarch Fei Xue, Yingshan Snow Eagle. It is fine if it is Monarch Wu Hua. He is a core member of the Summer Clan and is suspected to be a reincarnator. Not only do we have detailed intelligence, he is also protected by the experts from the 3 great clans. That Monarch Fei Xue did not have detailed intelligence, and could only walk blindly. Even Fire Devil Paragon Master has been chased out, yet he is still inside? Similarly, an honored guest, Mount Spring Island Master who did not have detailed intelligence was chased out after just 3,000 years or so. He has stayed inside for over 50 million years? There were experts from the 6 great ancient nations who entered the Realm Heart God Palace. Naturally, the higher-ups from the 6 great ancient nations were concerned about it. As for the other ancient nations, they could only click their tongues in astonishment when Monarch Fei Xue managed to stay inside for so long. As for the higher-ups from Summer Wind Ancient Nation, they felt complicated because according to logic, those who were not part of the 3 great clans could not stay in the Realm Heart God Palace for too long. This time, Snow Eagle had stayed inside for too long. Unless this disciple of mine has some unknown techniques? Is it because he wants to enter the Realm Heart God Palace so much? Southern Cloud King could not help but exclaim. Staying inside for over 50 million years. That was too difficult. Let's hope he becomes stronger. Southern Cloud King soon frowned in distress. He looked at the scroll in his hand. AI, this teacher of mine is too good at causing trouble. I'm afraid he might affect my Southern Cloud Nation. He did not have any relationship with his teacher. But in the past, for the sake of acquiring the Twin Realm Blade, he had sworn an oath. And the oath was harsh. Usually, a teacher would not demand too much of his disciple. For instance, when he accepted Dongbu Shuiying as his disciple, his requirements were relaxed. If he were to make a harsh oath, Dongbu Shuiying would most likely choose to take Ancestor Fan as his teacher instead. I did not have a choice in the past. The Twin Realm Blade was the only thing I relied on to turn the situation around. Furthermore, I thought he had fallen. Southern Cloud King shook his head. This cheap teacher of his was too frightening and wicked. His name represented death. The harsh oath he made was in line with his way of doing things. Who would have thought that he did not die? And he even returned to the Realm Heart Great Land. So many unique materials are required, and the quantity is huge too. Southern Cloud King looked at the list on the scroll. Many of the materials are related to death. With such a huge quantity, what exactly are they used for? Southern Cloud King felt his heart palpitating. No choice. That time when Undying Underworld Emperor shook the entire Realm Heart Great Land, his reputation was at its peak. He was even faintly the strongest expert in Realm Heart Great Land at that time. Naturally, Emperor Summer was not as strong as he was now. That time, Emperor Summer was comparable to Emperor Tsang and Ancestor Fan. In the past, Undying Underworld Emperor single-handedly fought against many other unparalleled existences, causing chaos in the Realm Heart Great Land. That was before the First War of the Ancient Nations. That time, he was that unbridled. Now that a long time has passed, his strength is unfathomable. How could he remain low profile? Southern Cloud King shook his head. Previously, he even hoped that Undying Underworld Emperor would die in the Broken Teeth Mountain Range. It's a pity that Undying Underworld Emperor had already returned from the Broken Teeth Mountain Range. He even threw a list to him, asking him to collect these materials. Southern Cloud King felt bitter in his heart. Now that he was tied onto this huge ship, unless he was prepared to violate the oath, or to incur the wrath of Undying Underworld Emperor, he could only listen obediently. But if Undying Underworld Emperor were to create another huge wave, Undying Underworld Emperor would naturally be able to deal with all dangers with his frightening strength. Nevertheless, the entire Southern Cloud Nation might be implicated. How frustrating! Southern Cloud King felt sullen. What kind of proud person was he? Currently, he could only endure it. And within the Realm Heart God Palace, on the 6th level of the Chaotic Origin Pagoda, the white-robed young man Dongwu Shuang was currently seated cross-legged with his eyes closed. He was currently cultivating. Chapter 1143. It seems that the 6th level is my limit without using the world flower. Dongwu Shuang looked at the 6th array diagram on the pillar. That time, Lord Lo Qing gave him a world flower seed. Because Shuang wanted to experience it, he entered a world flower to cultivate. After he finished cultivating with that world flower, Dongwu Shuang was not in a rush to enter another world flower. Because he wanted to squeeze out all of his potential and see how far he could reach under the guidance of the Chaotic Origin Pagoda. Furthermore, he would force himself into a desperate situation before using the world flower. By then, he could experience the process of the world flower blossoming and gain more. The world flower was precious. He had to use it to the fullest. For now, Shuang decided not to enter the world flower to cultivate. Because he had fused 3 branches together in the past, he comprehended the 10 array diagrams on the 3rd level in just 10,000 years. Nevertheless, he still spent another 10 million years cultivating on the 3rd level, consolidating his realm. As for the 10 array diagrams on the 4th level, Shuang spent 1,000,000 years before comprehending them. The 5th level was clearly harder. But he succeeded in fusing 4 branches together. It was much easier after that. He spent a total of 3 million years comprehending all 10 array diagrams. The 6th level, it was also 55 million years after he entered the Realm Heart God Palace. He was trapped before the 6th array diagram on the 6th level. He was only left with 500,000 years. He did not dare to force himself any further. World Flower. In his hometown Primal Chaos Void, the black-robed Dongwu Shuang directly flew to the lowest layer of the 8 flowers on a vine plant, the gray flower bud. Who? After entering the gray flower bud, it was a lonely primal chaos world. The world gradually evolved, but this flower bud world only gave birth to a small number of animals and humans. The entire world remained cold and lonely. The living environment was harsh. For a total of 100,000 years, the flower bloomed until it withered. The gray flower bud world remained cold and lonely. The number of humans within did not exceed 10,000. Humans were just one of the many animals, and they did not form a strong civilization. Void. During this process, Dongwu Shuang observed the evolution of the Tao of Void over the short period of 100,000 years. His understanding of the Tao of Void surged. This is too mystical. Previously, the pink flower and now, the gray flower. Even though they are both evolving the complete Tao of Void, they are leaning towards different directions. Dongwu Shuang was astonished. It was like the same fusion of the 5 elements. In the hands of some experts, they would create techniques that were famous for their domains. However, some powerhouses would create techniques that could seal off worlds. This was because every expert had a different way of thinking, and their use of the Tao was also different. These flowers were all derived from the complete Tao of the Void, but they were all formed in completely different ways. Different methods collided in Dongwu Shuang's mind, and too many ideas emerged. This also made Dongwu Shuang feel grateful to Lord Lo Qing. He even had a thought. I wonder what the Lord Lo Qing gave the Sword Master. In the end, treasures were just objects. How useful they could be depended on the individual. If one did not have sufficient comprehension ability, using it would be a waste. This was also the reason why Lord Lo Qing chose to help Dongwu Shuang and Sword Master instead of other cosmos gods. Dongbua Shui Ying's slow comprehension speed increased again as a result of the world flower's enlightenment. He had to study and comprehend a large amount of ideas. He merely spent some time to study the array diagrams before rapidly comprehending them. He stayed on the 6th level for 10 million years before entering the 7th level. The 7th level continued squeezing him dry, and he only comprehended 10 array diagrams after 6 million years. The 8th level, the 7th array diagram. Dongbua Shuiying was finally forced to enter the world flower for the 3rd time. The 9th level, the 9th array diagram trapped him once again. This was the 4th time he entered the world flower. The 10th level. In the realm Heart Great Land, the higher-ups of the 6 great ancient nations were paying close attention to the cosmos gods who were expelled. Like that monarch Wu Hua from the Summer Wind Ancient Nation, he was finally expelled. Currently, there were only 2 who were below the Paragon Master Realm. Monarch Feishue from the Southern Cloud Nation, Angshan Snow Eagle, was one of them. It has been 90 million years, yet he is still inside? Truly frightening. He might have a huge harvest after staying inside for so long. For instance, he might get a top-graded secret treasure or some other rare treasures. Every time so many cosmos gods enter, if they could easily get a top-graded secret treasure, how many are there in the realm Heart Great Land? It isn't that easy. Discussions were happening everywhere. Cosmos gods would feel jealous too. After all, how hard was it to get a top-graded secret treasure? Like Southern Cloud King in the past, he was pursued until he was in a sorry state. He was fortunate enough to enter the historical remains deliberately left behind by Undying Underworld Emperor, and was forced to swear an oath before he got the Twin Round Blade. Other than those who had unparalleled existences helping them, to get a top-graded secret treasure by relying on oneself? That was too difficult. Even those who had a huge background and could enter the realm Heart God Palace had a low possibility of getting a top-graded secret treasure. Of course, Dongbua Shuiying was someone who reincarnated with the realm Heart Order. Yuan had left behind a portion of the chaotic origin pagoda for these absolute geniuses who reincarnated. Naturally, what kind of treasure they would get would depend on their comprehension ability. I'm trapped again. The 10th level of the chaotic origin pagoda. Dongbua Shuiying looked at the 7th array diagram. He was left with 500,000 years. This was an iron rule he set for himself. The moment he was left with 500,000 years, he would have to use the world flowers. According to logic, world flowers were most effective when one was at a bottleneck. But this time, it was worth it to use a few more flowers in the chaotic origin pagoda. Furthermore, he had already thought that if he could reach the end, it would be worth it even if he used 7 or 8 flowers. And now, it seemed that the difficulty of the trial was not that ridiculous. Or rather, his comprehension ability was high enough for him to reach this stage after using 4 world flowers. The 5th flower. Without hesitation, Dongbua Shuiying's avatar located in his hometown Primal Chaos Void entered the 5th world flower. This time, he was determined to succeed. According to the information transmitted over by Yuan, as long as he succeeded in carving the inner walls of the 8th level and stepped into the 9th level, he would be bestowed with a supreme-graded secret treasure even if he could no longer advance any further. A supreme-graded secret treasure was something that could make final realm cosmos gods go crazy. In the realm Heart Great Land, there were even some final realm cosmos gods who could not get a supreme-graded secret treasure. What if he stepped into the 10th level? What if he succeeded in carving the inner walls of the 10th level? What if he reached the pinnacle? Every array diagram on the chaotic origin pagoda was meant to guide him in his cultivation. It was entirely suitable for him. Shuiying believed that the final bestowment would be suitable for him too. The large amount of comprehension he gained from comprehending the world flowers allowed Dongbua Shuiying to take another step forward, fusing 6 branches together. He opened his eyes and looked at the remaining few array diagrams. After pondering for a while, he was able to comprehend them. But he was not in a rush to collect the treasures. Instead, he continued cultivating until the end. After all, the moment he left the chaotic origin pagoda, he would have to continue exploring the Realm Heart God Palace. By then, he would no longer have such a safe environment for him to cultivate in. He waited until the final year of 100 million years. Only then did Dongbua Shuang stand up. Waving his hand, he sent out a strand of void edge to carve the array diagrams on the inner walls. In a single breath, he completed the 10th array diagram on the 10th level. Final. I wonder what the final bestowment of the chaotic origin pagoda will be. At this moment, Dongbua Shuang felt a strand of shame. He had the help of the world flowers. Without them, he would have reached the 5th or 6th level at most. But Dongbua Ying's thoughts went astray. The trial for him was the Tao of Void. And in the Realm Heart Great Land, Tao of Void experts who reached this realm had avatars. The trial left behind by Yuan had considered leaving avatars in the outer world. It was impossible for any Tao of Void expert to send all of their avatars into the Chaotic Origin Pagoda. And the moment they discovered the Chaotic Origin Pagoda, none of the Tao of Void experts were fools. They would definitely search for treasures that could aid in their cultivation at all costs. That would allow them to improve as much as possible during the period when they were exploring the Chaotic Origin Pagoda. For instance, some core disciples from the 6 great ancient nations could purchase some precious treasures. They could even ask unparalleled existences for help to maintain time acceleration, allowing their avatars in the outer world to cultivate at 10 times the normal time acceleration. If they were disciples and juniors that Emperor Summer or Limitless City Master valued highly, they would likely provide greater help. All sorts of methods. In reality, Dongbua Ying's innate talent and comprehension ability were extremely high. One could see how high he was when he created the 9-rotation undying technique. If he did not have the world flowers and simply spent his contribution points in the Fan clan, it was possible for him to obtain a supreme-graded secret treasure with time acceleration and other simple techniques. But now, with the help of the world flowers, he was able to walk further. Wang, the towering chaotic origin pagoda, let out a bright light. Shuang, who was currently at the 10th level, looked upwards. At this moment, there was a distorted lump of light appearing at the dome. Within it, dark chaotic origin energy was surging. Vaguely, something seemed to be gestating within. Chapter 1144. What is this? Dongbua Shuang felt a suppressive force coming from above. Within the light ball, wrapped by the dark chaotic origin energy, a droplet of light green liquid appeared. It was emitting a vigorous life force, and at the same time, a horrifying pressure. This droplet of light green liquid brought with it a suppressive force that pressed down on the body of Dongbua Shuang, causing his soul to tremble. If it were a new cosmos god with a weaker soul, he would most likely be forced to kneel. This degree of suppression had far surpassed the level of Emperor Summer. Wang. Following that, this droplet of light green liquid flew over in a stream of light. It arrived before Dongbua Shuang at the same time. He could feel a dense fishy smell assaulting his face. Bloody smell. This droplet of light green liquid seemed to be condensed from a sea of blood. The bloody smell was so dense that it directly invaded his brain, causing Dongbua Shuang to fall into a daze. This droplet of light green liquid had tunneled into his forehead and into his soul. What exactly is this? Accompanied by a ringing in his consciousness, Dongbua Shuang softly fell onto the ground. At a certain location in the distant higher dimension, there were 3 chaotic origin lifeforms. One of the old men suddenly extended his hand with a chuckle. A droplet of light green liquid appeared on his finger. Following that, he flicked his finger, causing this droplet of light green liquid to travel across a long distance and enter the Realm Heart Great Land. An old thief! You actually threw a droplet of myriad tentacles Dragon Mother's heart blood to a cosmos god. You are willing to do so? That time when we killed the myriad tentacles Dragon Mother, we spent so much effort. That time, an old thief only got 20 droplets of heart blood in total. Yet you are willing to give it to a cosmos god? What a waste! To him, it can only be used to cleanse his soul. And he is just a level 2 cosmos god brat. Let me see what is so special about him. Let me have a look too. Reincarnated? And it even involves the territory of younger brother Luo? The other two were curious. This kid named Dongbu Shuang is also one of the most talented youngsters in the countless source worlds that I've observed. In fact, he's ranked at the top. This time, even though my chaotic origin pagoda is testing his talent in the Tao of Void, in reality, according to my previous observations, his talent in the mirage and illusory realm is above that of the Tao of Void. So what if your perception is high? At most, they would reach the final realm of Cosmos God. An old thief, you have spent so much effort to create the realm Heart Great Land and spent so many resources to nurture them. Yet up till now, not a single one has managed to jump out of the cage. Brother Luo, you can consider this as me grooming him, right? Haha, I spent so much effort to create the realm Heart Great Land, yet I didn't get anything from it. On the contrary, it was the origin world origin continent that produced Brother Luo. That's why I'm telling you to stop messing around. Everything is up to fate. If there's anything you like, just give me some pointers. I need time. The realm Heart Great Land hasn't existed for a long time yet. Once time passes, things will definitely change. Still not the same? In my opinion, you are wasting your efforts. This person called Dongbu Shuang, you are also wasting a droplet of myriad tentacles Dragon Mother's heart blood. Chaotic Origin Pagoda 10th level. Dongbu Shuang fell onto the ground. Yet another avatar of Dongbu Shuang appeared by the side. This avatar was incredibly awake. Weird. What exactly is that droplet of faint green liquid? Why did it make this avatar of mine lose consciousness? I can't even link my memories temporarily. Dongbu Shuang felt incredibly puzzled. All other avatars were fine. Only the avatar that fused with that droplet of faint green liquid had a problem. Even though he could not link his memories. However, through the connection between their souls, they could sense that the soul of this fallen clone was undergoing some sort of change. The final bestowment of the chaotic origin pagoda should be a good thing. An existence at the level of Yuan wouldn't harm me, right? Dongbu Shuang could only wait. This wait lasted for half a year. Woo! The avatar that was lying there finally sat up. He clutched his head. His head was ringing in pain and swelling. The soul of this avatar of mine? Dongbu Shuang immediately discovered that the deduction speed of this avatar's soul had significantly increased. It was just like how the soul of a primal chaos cultivator would undergo a metamorphosis when they reached the Cosmos God realm. At this moment, Shuang had this feeling. The deduction speed of this avatar should be comparable to 10 other avatars combined. Realm Heart Great Land could maintain 9 peak souls, and his hometown Primal Chaos Void could maintain 2 peak souls. And then? Dongbu Shuang suddenly revealed a look of astonishment. The soul of this avatar that had just regained consciousness naturally had a soul link with other avatars in the realm Heart Great Land. Under this connection, an unseen energy permeated into the soul of every avatar. That was a transcendental energy that caused the souls of all avatars to undergo a gradual transformation. So mysterious. Dongbu Shuang was incomparably startled. He could actually transform the souls of my other avatars across such a long distance. It's a pity that my hometown Primal Chaos Void isn't affected at all. He wished for it to be affected. Because after the transformation, his soul would become stronger. It would also be more helpful to his cultivation. Originally, he planned to split his soul apart and create new avatar souls. But now, since the souls of every avatar in the realm Heart Great Land were gradually transforming, there was no need for him to go through that trouble. This is too mysterious. Also, in the memories of Dongbu Shuang, there was a thick black scripture. On it, there were 4 unique words: Chaotic Origin 7 Strikes. This was also a scripture that was transmitted into the memories of Shui Ying's avatars during the process of him losing consciousness. Now that he was awake, their memories were linked together. All avatars received this scripture, and they began studying it at the same time without any prior agreement. Speaking of which, This was the true reward for reaching the final stage of the chaotic origin pagoda. That droplet of faint green liquid allowed his soul to undergo a metamorphosis. It was indeed important. But this scripture was even more important. Chaotic Origin 7 Strikes was a supreme graded secret impartation technique. That's right. Any final realm cosmos god might thirst for supreme graded secret treasures, but they wanted a supreme graded secret impartation even more. Even though supreme graded secret treasures could allow one to peek at the usage of some supreme laws, they could not truly comprehend it. They could only rely on the secret treasure to unleash that power. As for supreme graded secret impartation, it was more detailed and detailed. It was much clearer than relying on secret treasures to comprehend. Furthermore, at the end of this scripture, there was even a secret treasure refinement technique that aided in the Chaotic Origin 7 Strikes. To experts who cultivated the Chaotic Origin 7 Strikes, the refined secret treasure wasn't any weaker than a supreme graded secret treasure. A complete supreme graded secret impartation technique that is most suitable for refining secret treasures. Dongbush Shuaiying was inwardly delighted. Actually, the reward of the Chaotic Origin Pagoda was to obtain a supreme graded secret impartation once he reached the 10th level after carving the inner walls of the 9th level. And only when Dongbush Shuaiying reached the final stage would he obtain a supreme graded secret impartation technique and a set of secret treasure refinement technique. As for that droplet of faint green liquid, it was an additional gift from Yuan. Chaotic Origin 7 Strikes. Dongbush Shuaiying was still thinking of researching this supreme graded secret impartation technique that would make even final realm cosmos gods fanatic when a ripple suddenly descended. Wang. That ripple directly teleported Dongbush Shuaiying away. Clearly, after obtaining the benefits and regaining consciousness, the other party had to send him away. Amen? Dongbush Shuaiying looked in front of him before looking behind him. Behind him was a metal bridge covered by clouds. The cold aura of the metal bridge could be felt even after walking out of the vicinity of the bridge. And directly ahead of him was a palace hall. I have returned here again? Dongbush Shuaiying clearly remembered that he was teleported to the Chaotic Origin Pagoda after crossing the metal bridge. And now, he was sent here again. Chapter 1145. Even though he was teleported back to the metal bridge, Dongbush Shuaiying remained vigilant. Most of his attention was still on the Chaotic Origin 7 Strikes. He could not even suppress the excitement in his heart. This was a supreme graded secret impartation. Those final realm cosmos gods and the strongest unparalleled existences in the realm heart great land could most likely be counted with one's fingers. Even if they did, it was impossible to impart it to others. No matter how great their background was, even if they took Emperor Summer, Ancestor Fan, or Limitless City Master as their teacher, it was impossible for them to obtain a supreme graded secret impartation. This was the first time Shuaiying entered the Realm Heart God Palace. Even though his comprehension ability was one aspect, he had to thank the world flower given to him by Lord Lo Qing. Supreme Secret Impartation. This is truly an eye-opener, truly an eye-opener. Dongbush Shuaiying carefully pondered over the detailed information of the supreme graded secret impartation in his mind. Compared to it, the cultivation techniques he once obtained were not worth mentioning at all. They were not on the same level. Currently, I have fused 6 branches together. I am considered not bad amongst level 2 cosmos gods. But who would have thought that before the Chaotic Origin 7 Strikes, I could barely grasp the Chaotic Origin first strike with my current foundation? Dongbush Shuaiying praised inwardly. The opening chapter of the Chaotic Origin 7 Strikes was about using the Chaotic Origin energy in combat. The Chaotic Origin energy was the fundamental energy of a higher level world. The Tao of Void allowed one to probe into a higher level. Only then could one rely on the Tao of Void to borrow the Chaotic Origin energy. For instance, the Avatar Technique, the Destructive Realm Teleportation Technique, the Great Destructive Realm Teleportation Technique, and even the Chaotic Origin Tao Scroll, these were all cultivation techniques that utilized the Tao of Void to utilize the Chaotic Origin energy. Of which, The most outstanding was the Chaotic Origin Dao scroll created by Emperor Summer. But, compared to the Chaotic Origin 7 strikes created by the Chaotic Origin expert Yuan, the Chaotic Origin Dao scroll was far inferior. Even Dongbu Shuang, who was a beginner cultivator of the Chaotic Origin 7 strikes, could immediately discover that the Chaotic Origin Dao scroll had many areas that could be improved. By improving it, the difficulty of cultivating the Chaotic Origin Dao scroll would be greatly reduced. But instead, he admired Emperor Summer more. Because the latter had learned the Chaotic Origin 7 strikes and understood more exquisite and easier ways to utilize the Chaotic Origin energy. That was how he could improve it. Dongbu Shuang stood at the end of the iron chain bridge for a little more than 4 hours before a look of joy appeared on his face. He waved his hand lightly. Hua! In front of his palm, a lump of fog immediately appeared. This fog seemed to contain many spatial cracks. If one were to magnify it by 1,000,000,000 times, these cracks would allow strands of chaotic origin energy to seep in. Yet within the fog, the strands of chaotic origin energy would naturally form into tiny spatial pockets that the naked eye could not see. 1,000,000,000,000 tiny spatial pockets, and every spatial pocket was formed from chaotic origin energy. They were incredibly stable. But as the smoke vibrated, every space collapsed one after another. Billions of spaces collapsed, creating an extremely terrifying destructive power within the scope of the fog. The smoke rippled slightly before collapsing and being annihilated from within. In just a short moment, Shuang first tore apart the membrane of the origin world, guiding a large amount of chaotic origin energy into spatial pockets. These tiny spatial pockets had completed the process of life and death in an instant. Billions of dimensions seemed to be destroyed in a chain reaction, causing its power to continuously stack. On the surface, it was impossible to see its power, but if one was touched by it, they would be annihilated along with it. Chaotic origin first strike, smoke ripple. What a formidable technique! Dongbu Shuang was startled. If I were to refine a weapon that complements this technique, I would be able to move unhindered across the entire realm Heart Great Land. Dongbu Shuang's eyes brightened. This supreme secret impartation contained a refinement technique. As long as he followed it step by step, he would be able to refine it successfully. Other than the materials being rare and expensive, it was not too difficult for him to refine it. This is just the chaotic origin first strike, yet the utilization of chaotic origin energy is simply too exquisite. The following techniques are more terrifying and powerful than the previous. Dongbu Shuang's eyes brightened. Especially the final 2 strikes of the chaotic origin 7 strikes. Those were techniques executed by chaotic origin experts. Even if he reached the final realm of Cosmos God, he had to rely on a specialized weapon before he could execute the final technique. Otherwise, the first 5 techniques would be the limit of Cosmos Gods. South. Dongbu Shuang directly walked towards the distant palace hall. As he walked, he did not meet any danger this time. He entered the palace hall. I've finally entered the palace hall. Dongbu Shuang sighed. Looking from the outside, the Realm Heart God Palace seemed like a chain of palaces and halls. But this was his first time entering the palace hall of the Realm Heart God Palace. This palace hall was incredibly quiet. The palace door was wide open. Dongbu Shuang carefully walked in. He looked around him. There were many portraits on the walls of the palace hall. All of them were wearing armor and had weird appearances. Hong Long! Dongbu Shuang looked behind him. The palace door behind him had already closed. Hua hua hua! Silently, the portraits of the other races on the walls of the palace hall began walking out. They entered the palace hall. Their gazes landed on Dongbu Shuang. With a glance, there were a total of 30 armored outsiders. These outsiders gave a savage grin before roaring out. How dare you barge into the Realm Heart God Palace? Die! Dongbu Shuang understood that he had only entered the outermost official palace hall of the Realm Heart God Palace. Hoo hoo hoo! All the protectors moved. Some turned into lightning bolts and charged over. Some simply disappeared before condensing in front of Dongbu Shuang. Some turned into fog and enveloped over. There were also some who stood afar and executed arrays. Hua! With a thought, Dongbush Shuang moved. Suddenly, fog and fog appeared in the palace hall. This vast fog and fog engulfed the entire palace hall. Amidst the fog and fog, many spatial zones were formed. Dongbush Shuang had mysteriously disappeared. He is there! These protectors discovered Dongbush Shuang. The white-robed young man Dongbush Shuang was currently in one of the tiny spatial zones amidst the fog and fog. He was currently smiling at the protectors outside. Shwa shwa shwa! Dongbush Shuang's figure strangely appeared in many tiny spatial zones. He seemed to be constantly changing his position. In reality, he was indeed changing his position in the void. This was a slightly modified version of the chaotic origin first strike, Misty Ripple. Dongbush Shuang felt that Misty Ripple was much more profound in its control of the spatial zones than the Scarlet Cloud combat technique. Hence, when he changed his position, those spatial zones did not shatter. Instead, they became places that he could move to. Pooh! Within one of the tiny spatial zones, a white palm extended out. It directly slapped on the back of one of the protectors. At that moment, another lump of fog that was much denser appeared. This lump of fog trembled and dissipated, causing that protector to disappear along with it. Not good! Quick, he is there! Kill! Not right, not right! These protectors were incomparably frustrated. Since they could not catch up to Shuang, they began attacking wantonly. But there were countless tiny spatial zones, so how many could they destroy? Pu. Dongbush Shuang kept appearing in many tiny spatial zones. Occasionally, he would slap on the protectors. The moment they were struck, they would either be killed or heavily injured. Not even a breath of time later, all the guards of the outsider race disappeared. The fog that permeated the entire palace hall also disappeared. Dongbush Shuang once again appeared. He looked at the portraits on the walls. The protectors on the portraits were all staring at Dongbush Shuang. They were all filled with anger. Hong long long! The back door of the palace hall opened. Dongbush Shuang chuckled. He walked along the side and left the palace hall through the back door. There were exquisite corridors outside. The corridors were meandering. In the distance, there were many forked paths that connected to many halls. Now this should be how a palace should look like. Dongbush Shuang pondered for a moment before casually choosing a corridor to walk on. After walking for a moment, he suddenly turned towards a direction to his left. He could feel a ripple there. There's a battle? Dongbush Shuang carefully walked in that direction. As he walked, he passed through many corridors before finally arriving at an enormous garden. Through the entrance of the garden, Dongbush Shuang could see 5 figures within. Of them, there were 2 experts from the Summer Wind Ancient Nation, Paragon Master Pu Su and Paragon Master Bewitching Sword. The other 3 came from 3 different ancient nations. The atmosphere within the garden seemed to have solidified. The expressions of these 5 experts were ugly. The 5 supremacies in the garden also sensed something and turned their heads to look outside. Ingshan Snow Eagle? It's him? These 5 Paragon Masters were all startled. There was no need for everyone to wait any longer. Star. Chapter 1146. Dongbush Shuang stepped into the garden. He chuckled and said humbly, Paragon Master Pu Su, Paragon Master Bewitching Sword, Great Monarch Bone Clamor, Black Sovereign, Hunter. Who would have thought that I, Fei Xue, could meet the 5 of you here? It is my honor. Humph. This was a thin, red-eyed old man. He wore a loose red robe. Through the exposed parts of his robe, one could see that his body was formed from crimson jade-like bones. He did not have any flesh or skin, and his bones were surrounded by crimson fog. Of his entire body, only his head was considered normal. At this moment, he was sneering. Flying Snow Brat, for you to be able to attract the 5 of us here, you should have guessed that there's a huge benefit here. But the greater the benefits, the more dangerous it is. I advise you to leave as soon as possible. Otherwise, you will be killed and teleported out. Great Monarch Bone Clamor, How can this Realm Heart God Palace not be dangerous? I am already satisfied that I could survive until now in the Realm Heart God Palace. Since there are opportunities here, I will naturally try my best. It doesn't matter even if I don't get it. But if I can get some benefits, then it would be my fortune. Dongwu Shuang chuckled. In front of a group of Paragon Masters, and he wasn't too familiar with this place, it was better for him to remain low profile. Well said. Paragon Master Bewitching Sword nodded. The Realm Heart God Palace is filled with dangers. It might be a good thing to venture into this place. Monarch Fei Xue, you should stay by my side and help me and Brother Pu Su execute some mirage and illusory realm techniques. I will also do my best to protect you. Paragon Master Pu Su frowned slightly. He glanced at Paragon Master Bewitching Sword and transmitted. Paragon Master Bewitching Sword, these 18 stages are filled with dangers. You want him to assist the two of us? And the two of us still have to protect him? Pu Su, he specializes in soul techniques. It is still useful. Paragon Master Bewitching Sword transmitted back. I think it is sufficient for us to work together. If we have to protect him, if we aren't careful, both of us might suffer. Pu Su transmitted. He wasn't too worried about himself. He specialized in the Tao of Time, and in terms of survival techniques, he was vaguely ranked first. Even Hunter from Myriad Realms' ancient nation was slightly weaker than him. He was worried about Paragon Lord Bewitching Sword. High Lord Bewitching Sword was the youngest great sovereign of the Tsung clan. His talent and perception were extremely high, but he was proficient in the sword Tao. In the end, he was still lacking when it came to staying alive. The Realm Heart God Palace was inherently dangerous, yet they still had to divert their attention to protect others. Rest assured. The few of us will definitely protect ourselves before helping him. Furthermore, he is ultimately someone from our Summerwind ancient nation. Paragon Master Bewitching Sword transmitted. All right. Pu Su said no more. Pu Su glanced at Dongwu Shuang and said indifferently, later on, just cast your soul technique and help me and Brother Bewitching Sword. As for the other ancient countries, you don't have to worry about them. Come. Exalt Bewitching Sword smiled. Dongwu Shuang sensed Paragon Lord Bewitching Sword's goodwill and didn't refuse. He immediately said, Many thanks, Paragon Lord Bewitching Sword. He then walked to Paragon Lord Bewitching Sword's side. Although he was quite confident in himself, he naturally wouldn't reject the possibility of joining hands with Pu Su and Bewitching Sword, the two reverends. The further he could go, the more benefits he would obtain. Even though he had a huge harvest in the Chaotic Origin Pagoda this time, he did not mind having more benefits. Dongwu Shuang stood by the side of Paragon Lord Bewitching Sword and Paragon Master Pu Su. He was silently observing. Paragon Masters relied on top-graded secret treasures to wield the power of a final realm cosmos god. But in reality, due to the difference in realms and the difference in top-graded secret treasures, Paragon Masters specialized in different things too. And the ones who posed the greatest threat were Paragon Master Pu Su and Hunter from the Myriad Realms' ancient nation. These two were ancient Paragon Masters. Monarch Fei Xue. Paragon Lord Bewitching Sword transmitted. Currently, the few of us have entered the relatively famous 18 stages of the Realm Heart God Palace. 18 stages? Dongwu Shuang felt puzzled. His teacher, Southern Cloud King, had only entered a few times too. The 18 stages were famous within the core of the 6 great ancient nations, but Dongwu Shuang had never heard of it before. The 18 stages will be filled with many dangers. Every 3 stages, we will obtain some benefits. The further we go, the greater the benefits. Especially after we get through the final stage of the 18 stages, we will be rewarded with a supreme-graded secret treasure. Paragon Lord Bewitching Sword transmitted. Dongwu Shuang was startled. Supreme-graded secret treasure? Even though the final rewards of the 18 stages were not as shocking as the Chaotic Origin Pagoda. But the Chaotic Origin Pagoda was something that only those with the Realm Heart Order could enter for the first time. It was merely a chance once in a lifetime. Like the 18 stages, it seemed relatively famous. It should be quite common for others to encounter it. Many thanks, Paragon Lord Bewitching Sword. Otherwise, I would still be confused. Dongbush Shuang transmitted. It's a minor matter. Since you have entered the 18 stages, you will soon know about this matter. In a while, we will be going through the 8th stage. Paragon Lord Bewitching Sword transmitted. It's a pity that you entered too late. Actually, the earlier stages of the 18 stages are easier. Perhaps you might be able to obtain more benefits if you came at the earlier stages. But the 8th stage is already very dangerous. In a while, you must be careful. Amen. Dongbush Shuang felt relatively grateful in his heart. Shuang could see that Paragon Master Pu Su was slightly unwilling to protect him first. One had to know that of the 3 great clans in Summer Wind Ancient Nation, the Summer Clan and Sign Clan disdained the experts of the nation. Paragon Master Pu Su was from the Summer Clan, and Paragon Lord Bewitching Sword was from the Sun Clan. And he was an upper honored guest of the Fan Clan. According to logic, they would be too lazy to help him. But Paragon Lord Bewitching Sword was clearly helping him. In the eyes of the outside world, there was still a huge gap between his strength and that of these famous supremacies. Furthermore, he even told him the secrets of the 18 stages. Paragon Lord Bewitching Sword even told him about the supreme graded secret treasure after getting through the final stage. This made Dongbush Shuang feel that, was Paragon Lord Bewitching Sword being too kind to him. This made Dongbush Shuang feel grateful. At the same time, he was mumbling inwardly. Could there be a conspiracy? Could it be that Paragon Lord Bewitching Sword was planning to make use of him during the crucial moment of the 18 stages? I just have to be careful. Dongbush Shuang thought. Before he discovered the scheme, he was still grateful to Paragon Lord Bewitching Sword. Time passed by second by second. Don't be anxious. Each tribulation level is usually separated by 1,000 years. Just before you entered the garden, the 7th tribulation level had just passed. Paragon Lord Bewitching Sword informed him via voice transmission. The next crisis will likely occur in nearly 1,000 years. Oh? Dongbush Shuang was not anxious either. The 6 in the garden were divided into 4 factions. Dongbush Shuang and the other 2 belonged to one faction. The other faction maintained a distance from others. Even Great Monarch Bone Clamor had temporarily sat cross-legged in a corner. Dongbush Shuang also sat cross-legged beside Paragon Master Pu Su and Paragon Lord Bewitching Sword. He was silently meditating. In his heart, the Chaotic Origin 7 strikes appeared. The Chaotic Origin 7 strikes had indeed opened a door to a higher level in front of him. It allowed him to control the Chaotic Origin energy with his current strength. This technique contained a technique that allowed him to control the Chaotic Origin energy through the Tao of Void. It was too profound. It was much more profound than the Avatar technique, Great Destruction Realm Teleportation technique, Chaotic Origin Tao Scroll, and others. Techniques like the Scarlet Cloud Combat technique, Arch Destruction, and Spectacular Painting were even more crude compared to this. Hence, Dongbush Shuang decided to absorb the experience of controlling the Chaotic Origin energy through the Tao of Void from the Chaotic Origin 7 strikes to improve the Scarlet Cloud Combat technique, Arch Destruction, Spectacular Painting, and many other techniques. Like the Scarlet Cloud domain, because it was a spatial domain, Shuang was able to improve it after learning the Chaotic Origin first strike. But some other techniques were like Spectacular Painting. Because it was too different from the Chaotic Origin first strike, Shuang could only absorb part of it. If I have enough time, I should improve the Great Destruction Realm Teleportation technique and Chaotic Origin Tao Scroll. Dongbush Shuang muttered inwardly. The Chaotic Origin Tao Scroll was too complex. He had already grasped the first level of the Chaotic Origin Refinement Body. The remaining second level of the Chaotic Origin Refinement Body was also the highest level that Emperor Summer could create. The moment he grasped it, he would barely be comparable to a level 3 Cosmos God in terms of body cultivation. This cultivation technique was something even Dongbush Shuang had to improve. It would most likely take a very long time. The Realm Heart God Palace would not give him too much time to cultivate. Instead, it was the Scarlet Cloud Combat technique, Arch Destruction, and 5 phases sealing technique that were simpler and easier to improve. Indeed, they were relatively simple. Dongbu Shuiying had currently fused 6 branches, especially the 5 branches of the 5 phases sealing technique. Even if he did not rely on the 5-phase beads, he could already execute the 5 phases sealing technique to the grand perfection realm. Naturally, improving it would be much easier. Time passed silently. In the blink of an eye, 1,000 years passed. Paragon Master Pu Su, Paragon Master Bewitching Sword, Dongbu Shuiying, and others had already stood up. Chapter 1147. Dongbu Shuiying carefully prepared himself. He also cast the mirage and illusory realm around him. Naturally, he avoided Black Sovereign King, Great Monarch Bone Clamor, and Hunter. Humph. Great Monarch Bone Clamor glanced at Dongbu Shuiying before sneering. Face you, brat, don't be in such a rush. It hasn't started yet. When the tribulation begins, we will be teleported to a new space. Paragon Master Bewitching Sword transmitted. Hence, the moment we enter the new space, you can cast the mirage and illusory realm. All right. Dongbu Shuiying understood that he had made a fool out of himself. He had no choice since he had no experience. Another 2 days passed. And then? It was originally an ordinary garden, yet the scenery suddenly distorted into a vast dark starry sky. Dongbu Shuiying and the other 5 Paragon Masters were all standing in the starry sky. Hua! Dongbu Shuiying did not hesitate. He immediately cast the mirage and illusory realm through the Devil Emperor gown, enveloping himself, Paragon Master Pu Su, and Paragon Master Bewitching Sword. The enemy is here! The 6 Cosmos gods present saw more than 100 unique battleships appearing in the distance. Every battleship contained many humanoid lifeforms. Within one of the battleships, more than 1,000 experts were gathered within the hall of the battleship. All of them were seated cross-legged. At the center of the hall, there was a white-haired old man. Fellow Cosmos gods, this is the final monster of the Mirage Cosmos game. As long as we succeed in killing the target that belongs to us, we will be bestowed with the Mirage Cosmos Lord, allowing us to become much stronger. By then, the territory ruled by the Empire will be greatly expanded, and the dimensional cosmos ruled by us will increase by at least 10 times. And then, let's stake it all. The final monster. Practically the group of apex experts in the Eternal Light Empire had blazing eyes. They had experienced many hardships. They had fought against other empires, and finally, they were qualified to be part of the team that attacked the final monster. With more than 100 battleships, I believe every battleship represents a superpower that has ruled over quite a few dimensional cosmos. They shouldn't be much weaker than us. Get ready! The protection of the Lord of the Illusory Universe is about to be withdrawn. There was an invisible barrier around the battleship, protecting every battleship. Those who had the right to enter the virtual universe game started to use their powers very skillfully. Every expert sitting cross-legged let out a light, some strong and some weak. When the white-haired old man in the center let out a terrifying light, everyone was shocked. An invisible array appeared in the hull of the warship. All the figures and lights fused into one and entered the body of the white-haired old man. The white-haired old man's aura rose sharply. Phew! The invisible shield began to vibrate. It's coming! The white-haired old man's power was vast and mighty as he waited anxiously. Finally, the invisible shield around the warship disappeared. Do it! The hundreds of battleships in the starry sky moved at the same time. Dongbu Shuiying and the other 5 Cosmos gods stood in the starry sky looking at the hundreds of unique battleships. The surface of the battleship was covered with an invisible barrier. This invisible barrier emitted a powerful suppression that prevented Dongbu Shuiying and the others from acting. They understood that it would be a waste of time since they could not shake the barrier at all. The Realm Heart God Palace should have an array spirit. It should be controlling everything. Paragon Master Bewitching Sword transmitted to Dongbu Shuiying. Dongbu Shuiying nodded. The Realm Heart God Palace should indeed be controlled by an unseen willpower. Otherwise, why would the trials of the chaotic origin pagoda be so coincidental? This willpower should be an array spirit, or a puppet. That chaotic origin expert Yuan who had jumped out of the cage would not spend so much effort to accompany them in these tempering sessions. Finally, the protective barrier of the 100 battleships disappeared. Primes of many dimensions. My celestial star empire is unparalleled. I do want to see how powerful these monsters are. On a silver battleship, a tall and big male wielding a scepter watched coldly. The arrays on the battleship flashed. Following that, the surrounding space around Dongwu Shuang and the other 5 cosmos gods was compressed into a piece of art. This pressure had reached the grand perfection stage of spectacular painting. But currently, other than Dongwu Shuang, the other 5 were paragon masters. This technique was simply a joke to them. Pum pum pum! Paragon Master Bewitching Sword carried a god's sword on his back. Just the terrifying sword light emitted from his body caused the surrounding space to shatter. Dongwu Shuang, Paragon Master Bewitching Sword, and Paragon Master Pu Su were together. The space around them had completely shattered. Even though the distant space was compressed into a piece of art, it could not affect their surroundings at all. Fellow cosmos gods, let's work together. These 6 ultimate monsters are incredibly powerful. Let us work together against one of them. The 100 battleships communicated with one another through the Mirage Cosmos game system. Who should we work together against first? We all have our own targets. All of them had their own mission targets. For example, the Celestial Star Empire's mission was, required mission, kill the ultimate monster Monarch Feishue. If you are unable to kill him, mission failed. Chain mission terminated. Optional mission, kill Paragon Master Bewitching Sword, Great Monarch Bone Clamor, Black Sovereign, Hunter, and Paragon Master Pu Su. Kill 1 and the reward will be doubled. Kill 2 and the reward will be doubled again. The required mission had to be completed. Just like the Celestial Star Empire, even if they killed another monster. If they failed to kill Monarch Feishue, they would still fail the mission, and the entire chain mission would be terminated. One must know how much the Empire had to pay to complete the last round of the chain mission in the Mirage Cosmos. How much resources had they paid? Whether the last round was successful or not, the difference in rewards was huge. Everyone hoped to help them deal with their targets first. The 5 Paragon Masters and Dongwu Shuang. The space around them had long shattered. All sorts of attacks descended. With a single thought, Dongwu Shui Ying's Mirage and Illusory Realm enveloped all the battleships attacking the 3 of them. As for those attacking Great Monarch Bone Clamor and the other 2, he did not care. It was already good enough that he did not use his Mirage and Illusory Realm to attack the 3 Paragon Masters. The ultimate monster Monarch Feishue is using an Illusory Realm. Instantly, more than half of the leaders on the battleships felt a terrifying soul illusion descend. Their Mirage Cosmos games system also reminded them that even though they had fused with their subordinates and had the protection of the battleships, they still had to divert more than half of their attention to defend against the Mirage and Illusory Realm. For a moment, some of their techniques could not be used. All sorts of terrifying techniques descended and attacked them. Paragon Master Pu Su stood by the side, his body emitting a misty light. The light circled around Dongwu Shuang, causing those techniques to disappear. They could not even touch Dongwu Shuang. Suddenly, a mystical rune descended. It was not affected by the light released by Paragon Master Pu Su. Instead, it attacked Dongwu Shuang. Paragon Master Bewitching Sword wielded his god's sword. He casually slashed out, causing the sword light to flash and strike those mystical runes, causing them to dissipate. After all, this sword of his contained the power of a final realm cosmos god. Even though these battleships had all sorts of unique attacks, the strongest was merely at the peak of level 2 cosmos god. It was just that they had many varieties, and it was hard to deal with them when they worked together. If they coincidentally countered a Paragon Master, even a Paragon Master would suffer a huge loss. Exterminate! The sword light of Paragon Master Bewitching Sword traveled across 1 trillion kilometers. When the sword landed on the battleship trembled and started cracking. The hunter, who was standing far away, suddenly took out a bow, pulled the bowstring to its fullest extent, and shot an arrow. South! When the arrow was shot out, an enormous illusory arrow appeared vaguely in the starry sky. Following that, the illusory arrow struck one of the battleships. Pun! That battleship directly trembled. Many cracks appeared on it. It seemed that it would collapse after another arrow. It's impossible for us to split up. Quick, that monster hunter is too terrifying. Let's work together and kill him first. All right, let's deal with Hunter first. Following that, more than 100 different attacks were launched. Hunter simply stood there. His figure was like an illusion. Many attacks passed through his body, yet only a small portion of them caused some ripples. Hunter sneered. His survival techniques far surpassed the other 3 Paragon Masters. Only Paragon Master Pu Su, who specialized in time, was slightly stronger than him. This kind of peak level 2 Cosmos God technique was not complemented by a combat formation. To Hunter, it was simply a joke. Pun. During this period of fighting, 3 battleships were destroyed. It's useless. It's useless against him. Change targets. Let's deal with that monarch Feishue. His sole illusory realm is affecting our strength. But the monsters by the side, Paragon Master Pu Su and Paragon Master Bewitching Sword, seem to be helping him, especially Paragon Master Pu Su. Most of our attacks are ineffective against him. Those on the battleships were considered experts. Hence, they were able to communicate quickly through the soul. But regardless of how many techniques they used, they were ultimately still in the 8th stage of the 18 stages. They had concentrated on dealing against any one of Dongwu Shuiying and the others. The others were all Paragon Masters, and a single strike from them could shake the world. Even though Great Monarch Bone Clamor, who had weaker survival capabilities, was slightly injured, he was still able to tear apart the battleships in his rage. As for dealing against Paragon Master Pu Su, Paragon Master Bewitching Sword, and Dongwu Shuiying, the 3 of them were working together. Under the domain of Paragon Master Pu Su, more than 95% of these attacks were ineffective. They had completely disappeared. The remaining attacks did not require Paragon Master Pu Su to act. Paragon Master Bewitching Sword easily parried them with a sword. It was sufficient for Dongwu Shuiying to cast his mirage and illusory realm to influence the enemies. As the battleships were destroyed one after another, they no longer had the strength to resist. Finally, all of them dissipated. We failed. We are just short of the final part of the chain mission. This time, the rewards from the Mirage Cosmic Lord are pitifully little. Damn it, this is too difficult. This is, after all, a legendary ultimate mission. It's normal for it to be difficult. It's just that this difficulty is too inconceivable. Where did these ultimate monsters come from? Which universe did they come from? They also knew. Everything in the Mirage Cosmic game was a place where real experts entered. For such terrifying monsters to exist, it meant that in some unknown place, there were such terrifying experts. The surrounding starry sky distorted. Dongwu Shuiying and the others returned to the original garden. Chapter 1148. The atmosphere in the garden was a little strange. Dongwu Shuiying, Paragon Lord Pu Su, and Paragon Lord Bewitching Sword were still fine. They were still sitting cross-legged at the side, quietly waiting for the more important 9th stage. On the other side, Hunter and Black Sovereign King looked at Dongwu Shuiying, then at the red-robed Great Sovereign Bone Clamor with a smile that didn't seem like a smile. Humph! Great Monarch Bone Clamor's shriveled face was grim. He had lost his left arm, and the broken bone was growing back. Great Monarch Bone Clamor was the only one who had been injured during the 8th trial. There was no other way. Even though they were Paragon Masters, they relied on top-graded secret treasures to allow them to reach the final realm of Cosmos God in a certain aspect. Nevertheless, he remained a level 2 Cosmos God in most aspects. Great Monarch Bone Clamor, for example, had been severely injured by the combined attacks of the warships. Brat from the southern Cloud Nation, Pooh Sue and Bewitching Sword might be able to protect you now. But the further you go, the harder the stages will be. By then, they might not be able to protect you. Great Monarch Bone Clamor sneered. Thank you for your concern, Monarch. It's a pity that Great Monarch Bone Clamor won't be able to witness my defeat. Dongbush Shuang retorted with a smile. Since the Great Monarch Bone Clamor was mocking him, there was no need for him to give him any face. Great Monarch Bone Clamor's expression changed. Haha, Monarch Feishua's words make sense. Gu Xiao, I'm afraid you won't be able to witness that scene. Black Sovereign King added. Amongst us, you might very well be the first to be expelled. The hunter glanced at him and was too lazy to say anything. Paragon Master Pooh Sue and Paragon Master Bewitching Sword merely glanced at Gu Xiao, then closed their eyes and continued meditating. Is that so? Just wait and see. Great Monarch Bone Clamor became even more furious. He was clear that he was the one with the weakest survivability amongst those present. And that Yingshan's Snow Eagle might be weak, but with the help of Pooh Sue and Bewitching Sword, he might really be the first to be expelled. This made Gu Xiao feel humiliated. Because, in the vast realm Heart Great Land, cosmos gods were naturally divided into different levels. The highest level was, of course, the invincible existences. They were aloof and powerful. There were very few cosmos gods who could survive in front of them. Naturally, there were those who fell in history too. Some died because they went to the Broken Teeth mountain range, and some died because of invincible existences killing each other. The next level were the final realm cosmos gods who did not own any supreme graded secret treasures, and the few Paragon Masters like Great Paragon Fui and Southern Cloud King who could survive in front of unparalleled existences. Once again, it was the normal Supreme Lord level. Once they owned a top-graded secret treasure, they might be able to execute 2 or 3 final realm cosmos god techniques. But their survivability, fleeing, domain, and many other aspects might still be at the level 2 cosmos god realm. This made their weakness obvious, and unparalleled existences could easily slaughter them. But no matter what, compared to Southern Cloud King and other Paragon Masters, some of them weren't weak. Some were even stronger by an entire level. The only weak ones were their survival capabilities. They were qualified to look down on level 2 cosmos gods without top-graded secret treasures. Let's see how long you can last. Great Monarch Bone Clamor glanced at Dongbush Shuang. He then sat down cross-legged. He did not believe that he, a great paragon, could not win against an honored guest from the Summer Wind Ancient Nation. Dongbush Shuang did not care at all. He continued comprehending the Chaotic Origin 7 strikes. Shuang wanted to fuse some of the Chaotic Origin energy from the Chaotic Origin first strike into his original combat technique, making it stronger. This wasn't as simple as it sounded. It depended on whether the technique was suitable. For instance, the spectacular painting was something Dongbush Shuang found difficult to modify. And it was relatively easy to modify the Scarlet Cloud combat technique. Because the Chaotic Origin First Strike, Misty Ripple, had many similarities with the Scarlet Cloud combat technique. In the blink of an eye, another 1,000 years passed. The 9th stage arrived. It was easy. With the help of Paragon Master Pooh Sue and Paragon Master Bewitching Sword, Dongbush Shuang just relied on his mirage and illusory realm to get through this stage. Ha ha ha, Monarch Feishua, this stage is much easier than the previous one. Black Sovereign King guffawed. Humph, of the 18 stages, the first 9 stages and the last 9 stages are fundamentally different. It won't be as easy for him in the later stages. Great Monarch Bone Clamor coldly said. Dongbush Shuang glanced at these two. He was too lazy to be calculative. Currently, he needed the help of Paragon Master Pooh Sue and Paragon Master Bewitching Sword to walk further in the 18 stages. That way, he would have more time to perfect his techniques. After all, just a single Chaotic Origin First Strike could not bridge the gap between him and these Paragon Masters. The Paragon Masters had top-graded secret treasures and had studied them for a long time, digging out the potential of those secret treasures. What Shuang needed was time to continuously improve his techniques, allowing him to become stronger and more perfect. Soon, the Scarlet Cloud combat technique will be perfected soon. Dongbu Shuang was looking forward to it. Hong long long. Within the garden, 6 short stone pillars suddenly rose from the stone ground. Every stone pillar had a stone box on it. The treasures are here. The other 5 great paragons walked over with great familiarity. They followed their senses and arrived in front of a stone pillar. Every stone pillar corresponded to a cultivator. Only they could open it. The 18 stages. Every 3 mechanisms, there would be a reward. Dongbu Shuang walked over. He caressed the stone box and lightly opened the lid, revealing 2 pieces of ores that were emitting golden light. With a glance, Dongbu Shuang could discern them, 2 pieces of golden-eyed blue flame, or? Looking at the quantity, it should be worth more than 10 billion cosmos crystals. These 2 ores were suitable for refining secret treasures. They were extremely precious, and their value was comparable to a scarlet cloud god's spear. As he kept the 2 pieces of golden-eyed blue flame, or, Dongbu Shuang felt waves of information coming from the stone box. Of which, there was a detailed introduction of the golden-eyed blue flame, or, and the 18 stages. Furthermore, it informed him of the location of the next 3 great stages. Every 3 stages, he would have to go to a new place. Humph. The other great paragons present were all extremely sensitive. They discovered that the treasures obtained by others were of similar value. And then? He did not act much and did not even pass through the 7th stage. He came in midway, yet the reward he received is comparable to ours? Great Monarch Bone Clamor, Hunter, Black Sovereign, even Paragon Master Pu Su and Paragon Master Bewitching Sword were deep in thought. According to the accumulated experience of the 6 great ancient nations, their performance during the tribulations would also affect the bestowment of treasures. For instance, those who were protected by others and did not act much would usually receive lesser rewards. Yingshan's Snow Eagle came in midway and did not act much. Yet the reward he received was comparable to theirs. This was clearly abnormal. According to the legends, some cosmos gods with frightening comprehension abilities are favored by the Realm Heart God Palace. Hence, they would receive more treasures. Paragon Master Pu Su and Hunter thought of it. Hua! The courtyard wall suddenly warped and moved. The originally sealed wall had now revealed a dark underground passage. Go! Paragon Master Pu Su and Paragon Master Bewitching Sword took the lead. Dongbu Shuang followed behind, and the other 3 followed behind. After entering the underground passage, they proceeded forward in the dark passage. After they entered, the passage behind them would warp and close up. They continued moving forward. Along the way, there were passages that were constantly warping and changing. And then? Within an extremely vast palace hall, Dongbu Shuang and the others walked through an underground passage that led directly to the great hall of this palace hall. After the 6 of them walked out, the ground of the palace hall immediately moved, sealing the entrance. Dongbu Shuang and the other 5 sat down cross-legged. Previously, when they got the treasures, they already knew that the location of the next 3 stages would be within this palace hall. Naturally, they sat there quietly waiting for the 10th stage to begin 1,000 years later. Monarch Faixue. Paragon Master Bewitching Sword transmitted. Paragon Master Bewitching Sword. Dongbu Shuang looked at him. The later 9 stages are different from the first 9 stages. The more dangerous it is, the lesser the help Pu Su and I can provide you. Paragon Master Bewitching Sword transmitted. I understand. This time, I have to thank the 2 great paragons. Dongbu Shuang chuckled. He was grateful to Paragon Master Bewitching Sword, though in his heart, he always felt that Paragon Master Bewitching Sword was too kind to him. Furthermore, he felt a vague sense of familiarity. Paragon Master Bewitching Sword nodded. He closed his eyes and meditated. Dongbu Shuang understood this too. One had to know that it was impossible for these Paragon Masters to reach the end of the 18 stages. Reaching the end meant that they could obtain a supreme-graded secret treasure. Even unparalleled existences wished to obtain another supreme-graded secret treasure? All of them were extremely difficult. Even passing the 15th stage was already unimaginable. Those who succeeded would be bestowed with a top-graded secret treasure, at the very least. If they were lucky, they might even get something even more heaven-defying like a protective secret treasure that could prevent unparalleled existences from killing them. This 15th stage was incredibly difficult. Most of the cosmos gods present did not have any hope of clearing it. In reality, most of them were aiming for the 12th stage. Getting through the 12th stage would usually be bestowed with a treasure worth about 100 billion cosmos crystals. If they were lucky and displayed sufficient strength, they might even be bestowed with a top-graded secret treasure. Even if they could not get a top-graded secret treasure, a treasure worth 100 billion cosmos crystals would be sufficient to satisfy them. Hence, the difficulty of the first 9 stages of the 18 stages were very low, and the rewards were very low too. Even when they reached the 9th stage, they would only be bestowed with 10 billion cosmos crystals. But the rewards after that were different. The 12th, 15th, and 18th stages were all bestowed with a rapid increase in strength. The following 3 great stages, the 10th, 11th, and 12th, will only become more terrifying. Paragon Master Bewitching Sword and Paragon Master Pusu might not even be able to protect themselves, much less me. Dongbush Shuang understood this point. Today was the first time. Chapter 1149. Even though the Scarlet Cloud combat technique was considered by Dongbush Shuang to be the easiest to improve, and the Scarlet Cloud domain had been improved the moment he grasped the Chaotic Origin first strike, the entire combat technique had a total of 5 moves. It was hard to improve on some of them, especially the combined technique. Of course, it was much simpler compared to the spectacular painting and Chaotic Origin Dao scroll. And now, he was close to succeeding. The 10th stage arrived as scheduled. Even though this stage was much harder, Paragon Master Bewitching Sword was indeed frightening. Coupled with the domain of Paragon Master Pusu, it was a perfect match. Even though Dongbush Shuang suffered from several attacks, he could still parry them with his spear. It was considered relatively easy for him to get through this stage. Hunter, Black Sovereign King, and Great Monarch Bone Clamor had spent quite a lot of effort. Great Monarch Bone Clamor's injuries were even worse. Damn! Great Monarch Bone Clamor was only left with his head floating. Below his head, jade-like bones were slowly growing out from the crimson fog. That pair of red eyes of his stared coldly at Dongbush Shuang. This time, his injuries were even worse. He even had a premonition that he might not be able to get through the 11th stage. And this Monarch Faixue who did not have any top-graded secret treasure had easily reached this stage. Just a little bit more. Just a little bit more. Dongbush Shuang remained seated cross-legged. He focused on comprehending. He grasped every bit of time he had. Finally, before the arrival of a new trial, I succeeded. Dongbush Shuang, who was seated at the corner of the palace hall, opened his eyes. His eyes were filled with a strand of joy. Even his avatar in his hometown Primal Chaos Void had begun practicing. By absorbing the profound mysteries of the Chaotic Origin energy from the Chaotic Origin first strike, his Scarlet Cloud combat technique was completely reborn. A true expert had to understand how to absorb the experiences of the predecessors. For instance, Southern Cloud King had obtained the top-graded secret treasure Twin Realm Blade. After meticulously researching it, he was able to figure out a killing technique that belonged to him. He had even evolved the spectacular painting and arch destruction from his killing technique, and even created the Southern Cloud's sacred body. By relying on the Southern Cloud's sacred body, he could unleash the spectacular painting and arch destruction. Like Great Paragon Fui, he was a Paragon Master, yet his combat strength could show disdain for some final realm cosmos gods, and he was close to unparalleled existences. This was also the result of continuously pondering and accumulating on the foundation of predecessors, continuously creating stronger killer moves. The Chaotic Origin 7 strikes merely opened a door in front of Dongbush Shuang. As for how much Dongbush Shuang could absorb from this supreme secret technique, that would depend on his own comprehension. Continue. Dongbush Shuang continued to study more powerful techniques. Another 1,000 years had passed. The 11th stage was about to descend. Paragon Master Pu Su, Paragon Master Bewitching Sword, Dongbush Shuang, Great Monarch Bone Clamor, Black Sovereign, and Hunter were all solemn. They understood that at this moment, if they were careless, they might be killed and chased out. Even though it might be killed, it would ultimately come from within the realm Hard God Palace. The scene before them warped. Dongbush Shuang only felt his body sinking, and he appeared above a dark sea. What a heavy restrictive force! Dongbush Shuang and the other 5 stood in midair looking down at the vast sea. The restrictive force of this space had reached an unfathomable stage, far surpassing that of the realm Heart Great Land. Even new cosmos gods could barely survive under such an environment. Wang. Dongbush Shuang instinctively executed his voidification technique, yet he could only reduce the restrictive force by half. This place seems quite strange. Paragon Master Pu Su, who was releasing his time domain, had a slight change in expression. He transmitted to Dongbush Shuang and Paragon Master Bewitching Sword. Even my domain is being affected. Amen? The eyes of Dongbush Shuang dilated. He saw many black figures rising from the depths of the vast sea. Hua! A huge creature emerged from the sea. On the back of this special water monster stood an old man holding a scepter. The old man's hair was very long. If one looked closely, they would see that the countless strands of hair were actually very thin snakes. A few cosmos gods actually dare to come to the Return Ruin Sea? You are truly seeking death. The old man holding a scepter sneered. Children, kill them for me. So. Many scarlet fishes flew out. They were emitting an aura that made Dongbush Shuang and the others palpitate. This aura seemed to represent the end. Life would end here, time would end here, and everything would end here. These scarlet fishes numbered in the thousands. They immediately charged out from the sea towards Dongbush Shuang and the others. Kill. The old man holding the scepter was excited and delighted. So what if you are cosmos gods? You will die in the Return Ruin Sea. These huge scarlet fishes were too fast. They traveled through the void like lightning as they pounced towards Dongbush Shuang and the others. When Dongbush Shuang executed his mirage and illusory realm technique, yet it had little effect on these huge scarlet fishes. Paragon Master Pu Su released his time domain, causing these huge scarlet fishes to be slightly confused. Nevertheless, it was clear that the entire time domain was trembling. Many huge scarlet fishes were able to locate the true bodies of Paragon Master Pu Su, Paragon Master Bewitching Sword, and Dongbush Shuang under the interference of the time domain. The past, the future, the present, and the transformation of time have little effect on them? The expression of Paragon Master Pu Su changed. These huge scarlet fishes did not have much combat profound mysteries. Instead, they seemed to represent some sort of law. Hom! A dazzling sword light lit up. Under Paragon Master Bewitching Sword's messy hair, his eyes remained calm. Wielding the god sword in his hand, the sword light shot out in all directions. Some of those huge scarlet fishes were directly pierced through, and some were repelled by the shockwaves. For a moment, his sword had protected both Paragon Master Pu Su and Dongbush Shuang. This horrifying sword Dao startled everyone present. This Paragon Master Bewitching Sword is the youngest great paragon in the Summer Wind Ancient Nations Tsang clan. He rose very quickly and is extremely mysterious. Who would have thought that his sword Dao is so terrifying and perfect? The pupils of Black Sovereign dilated. What a formidable sword technique! Hunter's body was unsteady. He also noticed the scene. As for Great Monarch Bone Clamor, he was currently defending against those terrifying huge scarlet fishes in a panic. More than 10 huge scarlet fishes had already bitten on his body, and his body was starting to become damaged. Bewitching sword. No wonder Emperor Tsang and Emperor Summer valued him so highly. Paragon Master Pu Su sighed inwardly when he saw this. Previously, his time domain was able to defend against more than half of the huge fishes. Only at this moment did Paragon Master Bewitching Sword gradually exert his strength. But there were tens of thousands of huge scarlet fishes. They were so dense that they covered the sky. Every single one of these huge scarlet fishes had incomparably tough bodies. Their life force was incredibly strong. Even when their bodies were pierced, they could still rapidly recover. As the number of fishes attacking Dongwu Shuang, Paragon Master Pu Su, and Paragon Master Bewitching Sword increased, Paragon Master Pu Su could only act. Ah, damn! Some of the bones of Great Monarch Bone Clamor began burning. He took the initiative to ignite them, forming a more vigorous energy to fight. He was already in a difficult situation. It seems I can't survive through this. Great Monarch Bone Clamor also realized that not only did the densely packed huge scarlet fishes contain that kind of termination energy that could suppress all of their techniques, their life force was also ridiculously strong. It was hard to kill a single one of them. Now, not long after the battle began, he had already consumed 1/3 of his life force. It was impossible for him to hold on until the end. This time, even Pu Su and Bewitching Sword can't help that Yingshan Snow Eagle. Great Monarch Bone Clamor was going to fail, and he wished to see others fail too. Indeed. As the number of fishes increased, Paragon Master Bewitching Sword revealed a horrifying strength that shocked everyone. His Tao of Sword was not any weaker than Skyrending Great Paragon and Great Paragon Lu Tian. Furthermore, his defense with his sword was sufficiently perfect. Paragon Master Pu Su was as strong as ever. But under the joint attack of so many fishes, he was starting to fall into a difficult situation. Gradually, the two of them could no longer help Dongwu Shuang. Pung! A sword light flashed. More than a dozen huge scarlet fishes were directly sent flying away. Monarch Feishue, I can't help you anymore. You have to be careful, Paragon Master Bewitching Sword said. It's fine. I'll do it myself, Dongwu Shuang said. Wearing the Devil Emperor gown and wielding the Scarlet Cloud God's spear, Dongwu Shuang stood in midair calmly facing the incoming huge scarlet fish. Pung! With a sweep of the spear, the huge scarlet fish was sent tumbling away. What? He can repel it? So easily? The other 5 Paragon Masters present were startled, including Paragon Master Bewitching Sword. Because they were clear how frightening these huge scarlet fishes that represented a certain law of termination were. Even though Paragon Master Bewitching Sword seemed relaxed, every single sword of Paragon Master Bewitching Sword was at the pinnacle final realm Cosmos God standard. It was sufficiently powerful. Furthermore, the Tao of Sword was meant for close combat. Hence, a single sword could send more than a dozen fishes flying. Nevertheless, it merely resulted in heavy injuries. Killing these fishes required quite a bit of effort. Such power! Dongwu Shuang could feel the heavy impact transmitted through the spear onto his body. It is indeed hard to deal with. Fortunately, I had an easy time in the past few thousand years, giving me sufficient time to perfect the Scarlet Cloud combat technique. If not for the help of others, he would have been forced out before he could perfect the Scarlet Cloud combat technique. But now... So, the spear rolled. Those huge scarlet fishes attacking Dongwu Shuang were sent flying. Some were even pierced through with huge wounds. Nevertheless, more and more huge scarlet fishes came charging over. Kill for me! Kill! In the distance, the old man who stood on the back of the enormous water monster roared out. The scarlet fishes continued flying over. Gradually, they began surrounding the 6 cosmos gods, forming 6 enormous schools of fishes. They were frantically attacking the other party. As the offense reached its peak, Paragon Master Pu Su could barely protect himself. Only Paragon Master Bewitching Sword could help out slightly. The injuries of Great Monarch Bone Clamor were rapidly worsening. I can't hold on any longer. Great Monarch Bone Clamor was left with only a head floating in the sky. Many whips were arcing through the surrounding crimson fog, yet they could not obstruct the huge scarlet fishes that covered the world. The huge scarlet fishes passed through the obstruction of the whips and bit onto the head of Great Monarch Bone Clamor. His head was still looking at the other 5 from afar. The other 5 were holding on. That white-robed young man Monarch Faishue who wielded a spear was actually holding on too. Furthermore, not a single drop of blood could be seen on him. He has a top-graded secret treasure? He is also a great paragon. Great Monarch Bone Clamor felt an unseen energy enveloping him. Who? Just as he was nearing death, he was teleported out of the Realm Heart God Palace. His journey in the Realm Heart God Palace had come to an end. He was indeed the first to be expelled out of this batch. Chapter 1150. Dongwu Shui Ying's spear technique had already improved greatly. Every single spear of his could control the chaotic origin energy, and its power had reached the boundary of level 3 Cosmos God. Nevertheless, no matter how powerful he was still lacking by an entire level compared to Paragon Master Bewitching Sword and Black Sovereign King who had top-graded secret treasures. In addition, these huge scarlet fishes were so numerous that it was exaggerated. Blocking every single fish would affect Dongwu Shui Ying's spear technique. Chi. Many huge scarlet fishes could not be blocked by his spear at all. They were all biting towards Dongwu Shui Ying. But Dongwu Shui Ying had 3 streams of mist revolving around his body. That was the protective technique of the Scarlet Cloud combat technique. These huge scarlet fishes could barely penetrate through the protective mist and bite onto Dongwu Shui Ying. After being weakened by the voidification technique, there was still a strand of aura that represented the end that barely affected the fleshy body of Dongwu Shui Ying. And the chaotic origin refinement body made Dongwu Shui Ying's fleshy body incredibly strong. Hence, this bit of aura did not harm his fleshy body at all. Too weak. These huge fishes can't harm me at all even if I stand here. Dongwu Shui Ying felt his heart relaxing at that moment. No other choice. The fleshy body of a level 1 chaotic origin refinement body and the pinnacle of voidification technique were not any weaker than some level 2 Cosmos God body cultivators. That time when Sacred Master wanted to kill Dongwu Shui Ying in the ancient sacred world, he could not succeed because he did not have the ancient sacred incarnation. In terms of survivability, before coming to the Realm Heart God Palace, Dongwu Shui Ying could already show disdain for the majority of Paragon Masters. The majority of Paragon Masters merely had top-graded secret treasures, and their survivability abilities were not that heaven-defying. And now, Dongwu Shui Ying had researched out a protective technique, allowing the protective mist to reach the boundary of level 3 Cosmos God. With this protective technique, his survivability was even more frightening. It was absolutely beyond that of Paragon Master Pu Su and Hunter. Amen? This fleshy body is too strong. Paragon Master Pu Su, Paragon Master Bewitching Sword, Hunter, and Black Sovereign King had also noticed this scene. That scarlet fish penetrated through the protective smoke cloud and bit on the body of Yingshan's snow eagle. Yet it could not even bite through his skin. Not a single drop of blood could be seen. This made them all speechless. In terms of survival capabilities, he is stronger than me. According to the intelligence reports, he has acquired the chaotic origin Dao scroll from my summer clan. It is fine that his fleshy body is strong, but where did he get his protective technique from? These scarlet fish penetrated his protective smoke cloud, and their power was greatly reduced. Great Monarch Pu Su exclaimed inwardly. He already knew that Dongwu Shui Ying had a strong ability to protect his life, but he didn't expect that his defensive technique would be so heaven-defying as well. It's like the Scarlet Cloud Battle Law's defensive technique, but its power is much stronger. Where did Snow Eagle learn such a powerful defensive technique? Paragon Lord Bewitching Sword was surprised and puzzled. Since these strange scarlet fish could not injure him, Dongwu Shui Ying could attack to his heart's content. Of the 5 great experts present, only Dongwu Shui Ying dared to resist against the bite of the strange scarlet fish so wantonly. Hua! A spear pierced out. At the spearhead, the smoke rapidly dissipated. The scales on the surface of the strange scarlet fish were tough, and it was only slightly damaged. Even though the chaotic origin first strike is powerful, it can barely injure these strange scarlet fish. Dongwu Shui Ying still switched to another spear technique. A spear pierced out. The spear pierced on the scales of the huge scarlet fish. The surface of the fish was not damaged at all, yet its interior was heavily injured. It even tore out a huge wound from within. Closely following that, the back of the huge scarlet fish exploded, causing scales to scatter in all directions. Only this piercing void technique is passable, Donghua Shuang thought. There were 5 great techniques in the Scarlet Cloud battle technique. All of them had their specialties. For instance, the technique he named Piercing Void. External protective techniques, arrays, scales, and robes were all useless as the technique directly permeated into the innermost part of the body. Of course, some experts with powerful fleshy bodies were strong both internally and externally. Hence, this technique was not that useful. But these strange scarlet fish were not cultivated by themselves. Instead, they were nurtured by the laws. Even though the scales on the surface were formidable and had a strong life force, the internal parts of their bodies were much weaker than the scales. Time passed. The speed at which Donghua Shuang killed the strange scarlet fish was slightly slower. Paragon Master Pu Su, Paragon Master Bewitching Sword, and Black Sovereign King were much faster. They could unleash power at the pinnacle final realm cosmos god standard. Paragon Master Bewitching Sword could occasionally unleash a stronger power. Under his absolute power, many of the strange scarlet fish would still die over time. The cosmos gods had an endless supply of energy. The number of strange scarlet fish was decreasing, and the 5 of them had an easier time. After spending more than 2 hours, all the strange scarlet fish were exterminated. And that old man who stood on the back of the aquatic beast with a scepter had already dived deep into the sea when he saw that the situation was amiss. Who? As for Donghua Shuang and the other 4, the scenery before them changed. They were teleported back to the palace hall. Everyone understood that they had finally gotten through the 11th stage. Only Monarch Feishue isn't injured in this 11th stage. Black Sovereign King's cold eyes stared at Donghua Shuang. The edge of his lips curled upwards. Indeed, we are all injured. Even Bewitching Sword has suffered some light injuries. Paragon Master Pu Su chuckled too. Under the attack of so many huge scarlet fish, it was impossible for them to defend perfectly. All of them suffered from slight losses. Only Donghua Shuang had a protective technique, pinnacle of voidification, and a terrifying fleshy body. He was the most low profile amongst the 5 present, yet in reality, he was the strongest in survival. Paragon Master Bewitching Sword also smiled at Donghua Shuang. We still have to thank Emperor Summer for this. Donghua Shuang chuckled. Next will be the 12th stage. Once we get through it, our trip to the Realm Heart God Palace won't be in vain. Paragon Master Pu Su said. Once we get through it, we will be rewarded greatly. Hence, the 12th stage is definitely tough. This is the crucial moment. Hunter chuckled. My target is also to get through the 12th stage. I hope we can get through it. Paragon Master Bewitching Sword nodded too. Black Sovereign King became silent. His eyes flashed coldly. The 12th stage, after getting through it, they would even give up midway and stop trying. Because they were clear that the 15th stage was too difficult for them. It would be a waste of an opportunity if they tried. Hence, they might as well go to other places in the Realm Heart God Palace. The 12th stage. Donghua Shuang muttered. This time, he obtained the Chaotic Origin 7 strikes. It made him happier than obtaining a supreme graded secret treasure. But one could never have too many treasures. Furthermore, the Chaotic Origin 7 strikes was merely a cultivation technique. He could not impart it to others. Furthermore, he lacked suitable weapons. For instance, the materials needed to refine a weapon that could execute the Chaotic Origin 7 strikes were frighteningly expensive. Even if he sold all his treasures, it would not be enough. Hence, he should try his best in the Realm Heart God Palace and accumulate more treasures. Getting through the 12th stage would at least give him a treasure worth 100 billion cosmos crystals. If he was lucky, he would be rewarded even more. Time to risk it. Donghua Shuang closed his eyes. He calmed his heart and continued deducing and perfecting the cultivation technique. The 5 present had an intense desire to get through the 12th stage. Even if they were expelled from the Realm Hard God Palace, it would be worth it if they could get through it. The previous 11 stages were all for this moment. It's here. The 12th stage. Paragon Master Pu Su, Paragon Master Bewitching Sword, Black Sovereign King, Hunter, and Dongbush Shuang stood solemnly. After 1,000 years of recuperation, their condition had reached its peak. 1. The scene before them warped. This is? Dongbush Shuang stood on a dark yellow cloud path. Surrounding the cloud path was a piece of primal chaos. To the distance, he could see other cloud paths. There were a total of 5 cloud paths. They formed a fan shape and led to a dark region ahead. Dark region. A towering figure could be vaguely seen seated on a throne. That towering figure swept his gaze across every expert on the 5 cloud paths before saying indifferently, "Kill them." Yes. Below that throne, there was a group of protectors. So. Very soon, 5 groups of protectors charged towards a cloud path. And then? Dongbush Shuang felt an unseen obstruction around the cloud path. I have to deal with the enemies alone? I can't work together anymore? That's right too. The further one went, the more shocking the rewards would be. Naturally, those who received the rewards had to be sufficiently strong. So. Dongbush Shuang instantly vanished. His surroundings were shrouded in mist. His figure strangely appeared in tiny spatial pockets amidst the mist. He was constantly changing and would occasionally launch sneak attacks to check the strength of the enemies. At the same time, he was also paying attention to the battles happening on the other 4 cloud paths. He wanted to understand the strength of the enemies by observing them. The 12th stage. Without needing to act, he knew that it would be extremely difficult. Even Paragon Master Pu Su and the others weren't confident. Naturally, he, Dongbush Shuang, had to be more cautious. So powerful? Dongbush Shuang was astonished. He was strong in survivability, and with the help of the improved Scarlet Cloud domain, he was able to delay for time. But Paragon Master Pu Su, Paragon Master Bewitching Sword, and Black Sovereign King immediately erupted into an intense battle. Only Hunter was still trying his best to evade and observe the situation. Pung. The battle was intense. Every protector team had 16 experts. Their coordination was perfect, and their techniques were profound. They were actually proficient in the Void, Blade, and many other techniques. There were even some that specialized in soul techniques. Pung. Paragon Master Pu Su and Black Sovereign King suffered heavy injuries one after another. Even Hunter, who was evading, was starting to suffer from heavy injuries. Only Paragon Master Bewitching Sword's situation was slightly better. Pung. Shuang felt an unseen ripple sweeping across him, causing his body to tremble slightly. Following that, a terrifying great hammer descended, blasting him out of the tiny space created by the enemy. Following that, a series of blade lights, spear shadows, and arrays enveloped him. And on the other side. Not good. Paragon Master Pu Su's situation was extremely bad. Even though he was doing his best to resist, in the blink of an eye, he suffered from 9 waves of killing techniques. 1. An unseen energy enveloped him and teleported Paragon Master Pu Su out. If he didn't teleport, he would die. Paragon Master Pu Su was teleported out of the Realm Hard God Palace. His journey in the Realm Hard God Palace had ended. Too terrifying. Black Sovereign King, Hunter, and Dongbush Shuang were forced into a predicament at this moment. The coordination of these protectors is too perfect. Dongbush Shuang could no longer care about anything else. He had to risk his life. Previously, he thought he could observe the situation by relying on his domain technique to survive. But now, it seemed like it was a joke.